do I bring to the table? Is
Yeah,
that what you're asking me?
Yeah.
I am the table. No.
Honestly, that's why Joe Rogan is one of the GOAT when it comes to podcasting, is because he can conversate on any topic.
Any topic.
But, right, so when a man makes money, that really shows his true character. So if
Dating coach for black and brown women.
Women need a dating coach?
I'm far right. I'm far right conservative. I'll just say that. See, people are scared to say that.
Because
wow.
everything you see in West is cool, and everyone wants to adapt.
It's getting
But
ridiculous. The only thing Obama did was be a black man in office. As a masculine man, how are you supporting Kamala?
Man, like I started reading that book, but that gave me so much anxiety. I had to like delete that book.
I felt that about Laws of Human Nature.
It was.
Hold on. What's wrong with a coffee date?
Whoa!
Look, no. Listen.
You should do a course on that. Right man on demand.
And we're live.
Yes.
And 3, 2. I don't really think that if I was in the same room as Fresh or Fit or whatever the brown guy is, if I was in the same room, I don't know if we'd get along, because I don't know. But one thing I will say is he does have really good examples. Have you seen I've seen a compilation where he'll always have like a story where he'll do like an analogy. Mm-hmm. And I know this might not be the best reference, but it kind of reminds me of church. Like, you know, when you go to church and like the pastor uses like an analogy, and then it comes full circle and you're like, whoa, like he's had a couple of those where it's like, I don't know, there's this one, I can't remember what it was, but it was good.
The reason why he's successful is he uses female logic against them. So when
that's what it is.
Because
so you're talking about the guy from The Fresh, right? By the way, we're on the roll.
Are we?
Yeah, we are.
I have to cough. I don't want to.
And you can keep the mic away. Sometimes when it does, it's so fine tuned, like it catches the breath.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's That's
what were you saying? Sorry. Before you go on, this is so funny because this is exactly how they did it when I went on this other podcast. I can't remember the name, but they just go right into it. Like, it wasn't until 5-10 minutes in that they're like, "Oh, we're on the air," and I'm like, "Whoa!"
I mean, I feel like all podcasts do that. Maybe they just like.
I tried doing it the other way. Believe me, like there was one guest here, and I was like, "Okay, we're gonna listen to this 3-minute song, right, as a prep, and we do it." But the last thing you want to do is make them aware that it's just because it just becomes.
It makes
once they're aware, and not a lot of people are comfortable with camera. They go, all right, so what can I say and what can I not say?
Yeah. But once they're already in it, it's already too late. Yeah, smart.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say though? Is analogies or?
It just uses like female logic against them. So when women say what they want in a man, and then it's like, they have the female delusional calculator as well, like 6 feet, 6 figures, 6-pack, all these things.
Oh my gosh.
And then so they say that they want all these things, but then he'll be like, all right, well, a man that, like, just, this is his logic. I'm not saying this is my opinion. I'm not endorsing it, but he'd be like, okay, like a man like that is a 1%. So would you agree that majority of women want that type of guy? Yes. So do you think that it would be fair that type of guy can have multiple women then, since majority of them want that 1% of men? So that's what he does. And so he uses female logic against them to try to spin a narrative for the time being, So
it works time and time again.
It works. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying he's right or wrong.
But have you ever watched a full episode? All I have seen is like this 30-second videos where he wins constantly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I've never seen like any video the other way around.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I don't know. He's a good debater, and that's why like it's just so important. It's just to be a good communicator. Like, you can get away with murder essentially.
I think the candy store one. I think that's the one I'm thinking about. Do you know the candy store analogy that he used?
Nah.
No?
I don't think so.
It was like, imagine being able to go into a store as a woman and you're able to, basically you have all the candies available to you. And then now, as a guy, pretend like you can't afford any of the candies. And you finally get older, you finally have the money, and now you can go into this candy store and you can get as many candies as you want. Are you not going to be able to not control yourself?
Yeah.
So that's why he's like, that's why girls, we're so chill. Guys don't have that experience. Like, I don't know. It was a good analogy. I liked it.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that, like, to a certain extent, I see where they're coming from. I see their point of view, because it's hard to be like the top 0.1% 0.0% of men. Sorry, 0.01% of men. It's difficult to get there because think about what we have to do. We have to be good looking, be in shape, make a lot of money, be charming, charismatic, funny, smart. We have to do all these things, and from what I see at least, and I feel like a majority of men can agree, like a lot of times we try to be as successful as possible to be accepted in the marketplace, to have an edge in the marketplace when it comes to the dating marketplace and things of that nature. So it's like when we work so hard to get to a certain point, it's like, why wouldn't we want to enjoy the fruits of that labor, What do you think, though?
It's so confusing. It is so confusing. I'm not gonna lie, because it's like, on one end, you do see people, a lot of people who are like really committed. They find the right woman, like when they're very young, like maybe in their early 20s, and this girl supports them through the course, and he gets somewhere, and then they have a beautiful family. He raised wonderful kids, and they go on to, not just having success in their life financially, but also being able to have a beautiful family, right? And it's not just them contributing towards the world and people, it's their family too. They have kind kids who are generous, who are, very nice personality, not arrogant, right? But on the other end, it's also like there's a ton of men, like including myself, like, you don't peak when you're in high school. You don't find that girl. You go in and then you never find love. And you're going through your 20s just hustling with no girls behind your corner. But I feel like in that journey, you get to a point where you realize, all right, fuck it. When I get to a place, I'm just going to get a trophy wife or more than one trophy wife, right?
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, it's just like two different circumstances.
Okay, so I have a question for you men then. Like, there's this saying, and me and my friend, we always go back and forth. He's a guy. And there's this saying, I don't know if it's the black community or I don't know if it's all girls feel this way, but they say when you build a man, essentially he'll grow to resent you. Because it's like, you basically brought him from the bottom, and now it's like, now that he's at the top and he's making the money and he's really where he wants to be, he's gonna go for the trophy wife. And that's why they always say, like, oh, find him when he's fully completed, like he's good. But then there's the other side of the coin where it's like, why is everybody always going for the finished product? You can't expect the finished product. It's okay to see, not potential, I should say, but like if he has the ambition and the right traits, it's better to be with him. So I guess the question is, what would you guys prefer? Would you guys prefer somebody whom, you held it down for me, you were there the whole time, I know you're loyal because you were with me even when I didn't have money, or okay, maybe you go for a 10 out of 10, she's your type, but maybe you'll be honest, if you didn't have that money, would she really be with you? Like, what do you guys prefer?
Yeah, go on.
I don't know. For me, like, I'm just the type.
And be honest,
I'll be honest no matter what.
Okay.
I could care less. But like, I personally want to build, like, and I know like people are iffy on this, but I kind of want to build my empire before I actually start dating serious. And there's different reasons for that. I mean, it's risky either way. Like, there's risk to being single while you're building your empire, and there's risk to being in a relationship while building your empire, right? The risk for being in a relationship while trying to build your empire is that there's a lot of things that could take away from you actually building your empire effectively and completely. So there's that. And then there's risk, while you're single building your empire, it's like, will you ever actually find that true connection? So there's risk either way. So I feel like it's really all about just the type of man that the person is, the type of man that you are, and understanding your risk to reward. Like, are you willing to take this risk to get this reward? Are you willing to take that risk to get this reward? And for me, the reward is much bigger than having a quote unquote trophy wife. It's like to actually build, I want a pretty big family, and to actually give a family that has a superior life, a life that a lot of people can't even experience, and to just give them the best life possible, give them the best opportunities possible. And that's the risk that I'm taking. That's the reward for the risk that I'm taking in my early 20s by not essentially being so focused on dating, So.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So think about it like this, right? Like, so typically when if there's like two hustlers, right? Say a woman or a guy, you work hard, hustling phase, you don't look the best, you probably don't have proper balance in your life. You're probably like, some things are like actually dragging, you're letting go of some things. On the other hand, you're like working hard. A few things are working out for you, but a lot of things are not working out for you. But then once it starts working out for you and you get a good hold of everything that you're doing, I feel like both men and women, they have a glow up, so to speak, right? In their 30s, so to speak, like, the ones who are like peaking in their career.
I would say men do. I feel like women, we peak when we're younger.
You think so?
100%. I
Yeah,
feel like
I agree.
I
Yeah.
have this saying. I know RJ knows this, but it's like women were born with our value already wrapped inside, and men, it's like as you guys get older, you gain your value through mindset, experience, gaining wealth, and like women, it's like the younger we are, the less experience we have, because nobody wants a girl. Oh, you want to come to this restaurant? Already been there. Oh, you want to go to Dubai? Done that. Like my Ferrari? I've been in a Lambo. Like, you want a girl who's kind of, you're the first to show her the world, I hear.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would say it's.
So what are
women
some of the
were-
intrinsic values, like, that women are born with? I mean, most of the women. In your
what do I bring
perspective.
to the table? Is
Yeah,
that what you're
yeah.
asking
Yeah,
me?
yeah.
I am the table. No. I usually hate answering this question. Like, when I hear this question, I don't even want to answer it. But for the sake of the podcast, I would say it's like women, we have our beauty. As we get older, it's like it diminishes. I also feel like, I don't know, like we
I think it's beauty and innocence and like inexperience.
yeah, and like
I think that's essentially what it is. 'Cause
yeah,
So
If-
beauty, elegance.
beauty,
Yeah.
Sorry,
beauty,
beauty.
innocence, and inexperience. I think, and it
No,
it may
seriously.
it may sound weird, but it's true though. Like if I'm trying to pursue a girl,
Yeah.
and it's like I feel like I have a lot to offer and I can show this girl the entire world and I can teach her things.
Yeah.
But it's like if there's not much more that I can teach her and show her, let's face it, like as men we do have egos. I'm not gonna sit here and lie.
Right.
Like a lot of people will try to do. We have egos, so essentially and I think as a competent woman, women need to understand, like if you could play to a man's ego,
Yeah.
then that's the game. You
I-
could have that guy.
I know
wrapped around,
girls who have said guys will take me to certain places or like they'll do certain things and I just have to act like I've never experienced that. I know girls who have said that.
It's true. Like if
Yeah.
if I'm driving a Ferrari,
Yeah.
and
But
I
they're
go-
not going to sustain that attitude for the rest of their life, right? I mean, for instance, let's say you're not pretending like this is the first time you've been there. Let's say you're taking this girl who's inexperienced city much. You brought her over to the city. You're taking her around. You're taking her to this nice Italian restaurant, 7-course meal. Yeah, she's going to have that expression in her face first time. Let's say you marry her. You do that for 7 years. 7th year, she's going to be a Gucci mom or something. She's not going to pretend like an
Yeah.
innocent, right? So they're going to change too, right?
Yeah, but that's-
how do you call
But that's
that?
'cause-
that's what the original point where Benita was saying how women. I mean, I don't know if she said this, but as the years go by, as women get older,
Uh-huh.
their value kind of diminishes, and that's a part of the reason why. It's
understand,
not just their looks and beauty that essentially does it. It's also the amount of experiences that they gain over those years as well.
So, have you read the book Total Recall by Arnold Schwarzenegger?
No, I need to read that. Yeah.
So, like, it's one of the best books I've ever read. So it started off like his voiceover is even better, right? With the German accent. So what happens is this guy moves to States, or before that, he goes through military. He does a bunch of things. He is an amateur bodybuilder, but then he looks at States and goes, all right, that's where the opportunity is. I need to go to States. Then he comes to States. He becomes Mr. Olympia like 6 times in a row, something crazy. And then he steps into movies and he started doing movies. And then he went for a tennis tournament in Kennedy's house. So the whole Kennedy family, basically with Bobby Kennedy, and it was after JFK's death, John F. Kennedy's death, right? So, but like they were having a party, and then he ends up falling in love with one of the Kennedys. He ends up marrying her. She supports him through the course. She kind of helped him put together his image, and finally he ran for the California governor thing, early 2000s, and it was the first time a conservative guy actually won the election, and his wife was actually a Democrat.
Oh,
But she supported Kennedy
crazy.
family was always Democrat.
yeah.
They were against the
Always.
establishment, and you remember there
Until
was a time-
2024.
Literally.
yeah, I mean there was a time when Democrats were actually against establishment, and then like they kind of flipped the coin, and now they are pro-establishment, right?
Yep.
But the story, the core of the story is the fact that this guy, they had like they divorced, they separated, right? But she helped him through the course. She was there for him, and there was that love, and he cheated on her, but then he still in the book he refers to her as the love of his life. He would like to get back with her.
Okay.
Interesting, right? Interesting
Yeah,
perspective.
yeah. No, yeah, it's really circumstantial, I believe.
Right.
Like everybody's different, you know.
So there's this part in India. Yeah, it's called Tamil Nadu. Traditionally, the women there, they accept, like after 40s, after mid 40s or after 50s, they kind of accept their men are gonna go and have,
Other women?
yes,
No
and
way.
they're okay with it.
This is what?
I'm serious. Like my dad talked to me about this. Yeah, there's this one culture where they're still cool with it. They understand that their men needs, their sexual desires actually exceed after a certain age, as opposed to women's kind of diminish, like biologically speaking, right? After mid 40s or something, they kind of like their hormones kind of they're not. Men would take the whole feeling to their grave, basically. Woman doesn't have it for that.
I mean,
long.
yeah,
A lot of women-
I say it all the time. It's nothing like that's just biological nature, and
Yeah.
and I feel like that's just a very conservative value as well. That's very traditional, you know, because
That's traditional?
I mean, okay, maybe not like traditional for everybody, but I feel like the Western world demonized it when in certain places it's not demonized. It's kind of just normal, you know.
I mean, what's the other extreme? Then you have like this complete open relationship. It's just,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Like with the swinger culture and all that. I mean,
And that's just westernized. Like that's just, I mean, it's just you just got to bring it back conservative. That's very like, you know, but I don't know. I'm not saying I agree with everything or disagree, but
no, there are like, okay, so there are interesting things like for early this year or like early last year. I remember like I started listening to Joe Rogan and they always talk about having mushrooms. So I was kind of like, okay, so what's up with mushrooms and ayahuasca, right? They say like you drink it or you consume it and then you get a sense of, like you understand a lot more. A lot of things you're not exposed to gets exposed to yourself.
Oh, like psychedelics. Okay.
Psychedelics, yes. So, so then so there was this girl who I was talking to, and she was doing some sort of small business, and I was doing some sort of small business at the time. And then I just wanted to meet her. I mean, nothing, no relationship, just meet and greet. That's all, right? So I set it up for a coffee shop closer to her home.
Coffee date.
It was not a date. It was truly not a date.
wait, hold on. What's wrong with a coffee date?
Whoa!
Look, no. Listen. Not as an actual date. Okay, this is like a pre-date.
I would never go out with a guy if he invited me for a coffee date. Ever.
But like, is this
I
on
would
like
never.
a first date, or is this kind of like never?
Never.
So what's your first date idea?
At least dinner downtown.
So you would like, but do you like dinners? Like, do you have a conversation in dinner? Isn't it hard?
100%. I mean, not for me. Like, if you have no substance, and we were talking about this yesterday, if you have no substance, no depth, and, you can't discuss certain topics, then, yeah, I could see how that could be hard for some people. But, like, I'm the kind of person where I could talk about anything. And, like, I feel like it's, like, it goes back to, like, having an opinion for yourself. I was in acting class the other day, and my coach was like, some of you guys, we talk about Kamala and Trump. You guys have nothing to say. You have no opinions. I'll be honest. One time I spoke to a guy and it was just like that. I'm like, so what are your thoughts on this election? This is pretty saucy. What do you think about the Democratic Party and what's going on? And I don't really know anything about that stuff. What?
Yeah.
So it's like I feel like it makes you a more interesting person when you do have an opinion about certain things and when you've done your due diligence and like research and yeah, like it gives you depth.
Now I have a question for you on that
Okay.
note, right? So let's say someone has an opinion and he starts spitting out the opinion.
Okay.
But everything he says is a summary of a bunch of Instagram feeds.
Instagram feeds.
How would you know it's a summary of a bunch of Instagram feeds?
Yeah, how would you know?
I can tell right off the bat.
Yeah?
If this guy actually knows about what he's talking about.
I feel like I can too.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, oh, you watched a bunch, 3 30-second videos. I watched too. That's all you know.
Well, I would
Like
say
sound bites, basically.
Sound bites, yeah.
Yeah, I
'Cause
mean-
no context.
Yes.
Just like the fluff,
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it goes back to like depth. Like it's like, okay, like even me, like I have certain topics that I can talk about deeply, and then there's certain things where it's like if you bring up the topic, I'll get silent because it's like I don't really talk about things that I don't know much about. Just because I'm not one of those people. Oh, I'm just gonna say this because it sounds. No, no, no. If I'm saying something, I've done my research. Like I know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think it's actually harder for women to realize what's BS and like what's not.
Yeah.
Because guys can make it sound like so nice.
Yeah, yeah. I've
And then they
heard
would
it.
just take it all in.
Yeah.
You know?
But
No.
going back to the coffee date.
Yeah.
It's not happening. Okay. It bare minimum dinner. And I feel like that's because coffee date is like so cheap. And like, I don't know, like the way that I see, I'm not saying you got to spend a bag on me on the first date, but it's like what you're willing to spend is kind of a way of like how much I value you. So if this is the beginning stages of the relationship and you're trying to impress me, how is taking me on a coffee date impressing? I mean, I know you said it wasn't a date, but like that's just how us women think. And like I've never accepted a coffee
to
date.
be honest, like I've never taken a girl on a coffee date.
Thank
for one.
God.
So I just want to make that clear, like for the record. But like, and if I'm actually trying to impress a woman and pursue
Yeah.
her, I'm not gonna do a coffee date, to be honest. But I still don't think there's anything wrong with it. Like,
I don't drink coffee.
yeah,
I
maybe
mean,
that's
even
it.
though right now we're drinking it.
Yeah.
But-
It's more like, you know, a dessert, like sweet, you know,
Yeah.
not a lot of coffee in it.
Yeah, but no, but to the other point though, and I feel like one of the things that, you know, I realized, I think, I guess in the last year, like especially as a man, it's, and what we were talking about, it's super important to actually like know how to kind of conversate on different topics. Honestly, that's
Yeah.
why Joe Rogan is one of the GOAT when it comes to podcasting, is because he can conversate on any topic.
Any topic.
But
Absolutely.
I feel like as a man, it's so beneficial to be well versed in different topics,
100%.
and well educated in multiple topics too, because it not only makes you an interesting person to communicate with, but it also makes you a very credible person as well.
Yeah.
So if you can talk business, politics, economics, relationships, if you like anything, if you could talk about anything and you communicate your ideas very well, you're educated in it, people are going to look at you as a credible person, so they're going to trust your judgment.
Yeah.
They're going to trust to do business with you. If it's a woman, she's going to trust
I'm
your
going to be more
character.
led. Like, I personally, especially how I am, I don't know if I'm such a conspiracy theorist. Like, I go on the internet, I go tit for tat with Chat GPT. Tell me about the book of Enoch that was ripped out of the Bible. Tell me about, like, I go deep. So I could never be with a guy who doesn't challenge me mentally. Kind of like how Candace Owens says, her husband was the only person who she said, I'm going back and forth with him and he's keeping up. If anything, he's outdoing me.
Yeah.
And I've been with the opposite, and I can't be led. If you don't have topics and ideas to like educate me on, I'm not going to say I think you're wetliss or stupid, but like,
But like
You're just not the one for
a
me,
woman
like-
needs to trust her man's judgment, and
Yeah.
a woman needs to respect her man's opinion, or else, like, she's not gonna follow. And
I can't be led by you.
Yeah, and the man won't be able to lead not just like his woman, but the entire family as well. Like, what if? I don't know why it's the first thing that came to mind. What if a zombie apocalypse happens right now, and it's like you, your wife, and your kids. It's like your wife's gonna be looking at you like, what are we gonna do? And there's like, and if you're well educated, maybe there's different ways, you know, some random thing that'll, you know what I mean, get your family in safety. But if you're the type of person when shit hits the fan, if you're the type of man when shit hits the fan, and you don't know what a single thing to do, it's like,
oh,
Now the
such
question
a
is,
turn off.
Now the question is, you could sit opposite to a man, being a woman. This guy would tell you, "I'm gonna be the best guy. I'm gonna be a Terminator when this won't be up. You know, I'll have the guns. I'll have all this stuff." But then you watch his actions, and then you realize, no, you know,
yeah, no, it's true. So
nowhere close
yeah,
to like
so
you know.
definitely got to be able to see through people's bullshit.
Yeah.
And also a man's experience too can
Because it
kinda-
happened to a lot of my friends. Like I talked to these, and then they would tell me the stories, and I would be able to say, no, that's completely. I don't tell them, but I go, yeah, you know, and give it like a couple of weeks, and then you realize none of this
Yeah.
stuff is gonna work out. You know.
No, I 100% agree. And understanding like a man's experiences too, right? What he's done
Yeah.
in the past. So by asking him what he's done in the past, like what experiences have you lived through? I mean, if he's went through very difficult, tough situations, but he's still here and he's still, you know, doing pretty well for himself, then you know that's a pretty competent and capable man, you know?
Yeah.
And not everyone is like Benita either, right? Like I feel like some of the women actually gets intimidated by the knowledge the man has.
Yeah?
Yeah.
think
You
so?
if you can have conversations, if you're super charming, they go no.
Seriously?
Yeah, I think so.
I can't see that.
Yeah.
I can't see that.
It happens a lot of times.
Like women get intimidated. Like, what do you mean by intimidated? Like,
They would assume, it's not just them you're going to be charming with.
you're gonna, oh.
Yeah.
I guess so.
Yeah. If,
Like
if you go
you're-
too strong, you have to have that sense of, I feel like they have to feel special. If you come across as like, this is who you are with every single person that you meet, they would go, I mean, yeah.
But I feel like,
okay, so
like
you
you
yeah.
also gotta find a balance too. You don't want to come off. And I read this in.
Yeah.
Have you read 48 Laws of Power?
Man, like I started reading that book, but that gave me so much anxiety. I had to like delete
Bro.
that book.
I felt
You
that
can't-
about
okay.
Laws of Human Nature.
It was just
Oh my gosh. Okay,
so
this is what I tell.
dark.
Finished it though.
I hear
book.
that. This is what I tell everybody about that book. Like you can't take it so literal. I think the last law.
He loves that.
48 laws, right? The 48th law is that you just got to move with water. You can't be so hyper fixated on some of these ideas and these laws where it's
Yeah.
like every little thing that happens in your life, what law do I need to use for that? What law do I need to use for that? You can't be
Fair.
thinking like that. It has to
But
be.
it's very manipulative, the whole thing.
It is.
It is, but
Right.
like you, and an analogy that I refer to is, you know how they say, if you're, so when people, money really opens up who you really are, right? So when a man makes money, that really shows his true character. So if you were a dick when you were broke, you're gonna be more of a dick when you're rich. It just
Yeah.
amplifies who you really were. So it's the same thing with power. Of course, that's why it's called 48 Laws of Power. If you were manipulative when you were broke, right, manipulating people for some bus fare, then you're gonna be manipulative when you gain power.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. So it really just amplifies who you actually are. So yes, that book in the wrong hands could be destructive, but if you know yourself personally, and for me, like I read the book, but I don't go around thinking what laws do I need to do on this person and this person. I don't think like that. I just use it more as to just be aware.
I was going to say that too. I was going to say 48 Laws. And I remember I told you this. I didn't really like, not that I didn't like it, but it wasn't the book for me because I don't desire to have power. But I really liked Art of Seduction. And that's so interesting because Robert Greene, or not Robert Greene, but it's just, they say that in general, men, they have power through, I guess, like leading and stuff. And women, our power comes through seducing and beauty and, different archetypes and stuff. So
And
I
it's
think
a
that's
good,
interesting.
because like we were saying too, it's like what you were saying, where as a woman she needs to be able to read through all these men's lies and
Yeah.
bullshit and things like that. That's where books like Art of Seduction come into play, and the same
Yeah.
thing with 48 Laws, because you understand what's could potentially be being played on
Yeah.
you, and you know how to maneuver around
Yeah.
it. But what I was saying is, because when you were saying how some women might be intimidated by, the ambition and the competence and all the knowledge that you have to offer. One of the laws in 48 Laws is not to be over ambitious or not to come off as over ambitious,
Yeah.
because people will just kind of think that your ego is too big for them and that you can't relate to them. So you still need to still show that you're competent and capable without showing that you're over ambitious and you're over confident and that you're over charismatic and things
Yeah.
like that. Like you need to find that balance. It's
There's
weird.
definitely a science to it. Like, it's like if I were on a first date, like I have these like rules where it's like certain topics shouldn't be talked about. Like I stay away from politics. I stay away from religion. Of course, these are things that will eventually need to be discussed because it's like if we're on the different sides, we're not going to work out. But yeah, like you said, like just flowing. Like you don't have to,
And I think a lot of things you said acts automatic for a lot of men. Like the man would start attracting the right kind of woman to him, but you have to get to a point where you're 100% or close to 100% comfortable with your own skin,
Oh yeah, for sure.
right?
That
so
comes first.
so there's like Joe Rogan, Matthew McConaughey. These guys they're just walking around themselves,
Yeah.
and then there's another set of people who are like very insecure of themselves. They probably cannot get themselves out. But then you embark on that journey, but you kind of have to get close to that where you feel you're okay. You could just walk around being yourself the whole time. And I think that's the long journey. It happens for different people at different time.
And
I had a
just-
question for you, RJ. After this, go ahead.
Honestly, yeah, it wasn't even really a big point, but again, it just goes back to what I was saying before. Like, it just comes through experiences, and especially as a man, like, I feel like we just need to be putting ourselves in positions where we gain experience, whether it's a good or bad experience. It's a experience, and how do we gain wisdom? How do people gain wisdom? Is through experiences. So if you don't take any risks, Like, you don't risk $1,000. You don't risk 90% of what's in your bank account on a potential investment that can make you a millionaire, that you believe will make you a millionaire next year. I mean, we all have to go through that so you can learn from it and then be able to, move smarter and move more wise and the following opportunities that you get. But things like that, things like, even just traveling the world spontaneously, just doing random things instead of just living in a shell. That's how you gain those experiences. And then when you're able to walk in your own skin, it just makes you a much more interesting person. You have stories.
Do you think
things like that.
it's about just that, or is it also about assigning yourself an identity? There are some people who assign themselves, this is who I am, early on. Now they that becomes their identity.
It has to be
For some
authentic.
of us,
It has to be authentic. Like, I'm not like, I can't.
it
like,
could be authentic, right? Let's say
it has to
you're a
be
high
authentic.
schooler with a Mustang. Like you're in grade 12, your dad gave you a Mustang, or you just bought a Mustang. You worked in a shop in summer, you made enough. That becomes his identity. I'm a cool high school kid.
Yeah, I mean,
Now
if
that
that's
gets tied in, right?
if that's what you're like constructed
No, it's
as,
not going to be sustainable. Like after a few years, all your friends are going to be like,
you still got to develop somewhat of your own identity, like no matter what. Because when you look at Trump, for example, he was following his father. His father is what led Trump to his initial success. And he was moving just like his father in his earlier years, maybe up until he was like 20 years old. I mean, he was literally following his father's lead. And his father kind of raised him into the man that he was. And then once he, I think they were building real estate, I want to say in Manhattan. And then Trump started developing real estate in Brooklyn. And when he branched off into, I think it was Brooklyn. When he branched off to Brooklyn, that's when he kind of started developing his own style. And that's when he was doing more of the acting and the Playboy stuff, getting into WWE and all these things. His dad didn't do all that. But when it came to his initial success, he adopted somewhat his father's identity, because that's what he was raised in. But then he eventually ended up finding his own, So I don't know if that like kind of answers what you're saying.
it kind of answers, but the question is like, do you have to have a firm identity to be comfortable being yourself, or just being in that journey to identify yourself is also that's
I just think your identity just from your experiences shapes your identity.
You think so?
I think.
I mean, I think experiences would shape character. Identity is something you assign yourself. It's your deepest belief. Who are you as a person? Are you a hardworking? Like, what's your, what are some of the things that you associate yourself with? What are some of your core ideas, fundamentals, principles, core values? And that forms it into identity versus like experiences give you the character. It gives you, it contributes towards it, but it's just one part of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like environment as well. Like if you're, because all the people that I see that are just like the modern day liberalism is just absolutely freaking crazy. Like, I mean, just all the, I don't even know if I'm trying to actually speak my mind on this. Anyways,
but that identity is different. That's gender identity.
But I mean, like, if you were if you were raised in a very liberal environment, especially in today's world, like, college and universities are so far left, so liberal when it comes to like LGBTQ became an entire cult. Like, that is a religion that people worship. Like, their entire lives revolve around
and
that.
if you come for them, there goes your business.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
fired.
Like, this adds to the kind of double, like, kind of spinning back to what you were saying earlier, like almost forbidden topics to talk about: politics, religion. What now is it LGBTQ?
Yeah,
like that's pretty much up there now. You can't really talk about that without getting some type of hate.
No, but the thing is, even if you don't care about the hate and you try to do a conversation. So I brought in a drag queen the other day.
Really?
Yeah. So I went out and to a drag show.
Look at you, eh?
It was crazy.
Woo!
But she, she was sitting there. We were having a conversation. The toughest part, they don't even. So I wanted to honestly know what's L, what's G, what's B, what's.
Okay.
I just wanted to understand like what does it stand for? What is non-binary, right? Even
kids these days know this like ABCs though.
Yeah,
ABC 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to be compassionate. I feel like if I learn about it, I can be compassionate about it. But the problem is nobody can explain this. It's so
asinine because literally you can't even ask what a woman is anymore. Like nobody on the left, no liberal can literally explain what a woman is anymore. I can't even believe it came to this point.
How far down that pipeline do you accept? As in, do you?
Look, I'm just. Do you want to talk about identity? Identity politics. Look, I'm far right. I'm far right conservative. I'll just say that. See, people are scared to say that. No, I'm far right because the left is just too far gone, and I'm not even trying to.
No, I was talking about like LGBTQ. What would
yeah,
you
that's-
accept out of it? Do you accept like, so what do you accept for real?
Okay,
in
so
the
I
group?
seen a video
Yeah.
on X the other day. I think it was after Trump got elected, but
Okay.
so this one, I think she was a lesbian. I can't remember, but she was one of those, like, she was a dyke, and she came on and she was pretty much supporting Trump, and she was like, look, at the end of the day, it was never a problem when it was just LGB, and then after B, and this is coming from a dyke who is
So L would be lesbian, G would
Les-
be gay, B would be non-binary or
no bisexual.
bisexual. So who does
Yeah.
both?
And then
Yeah.
and then I think she even went as far and said T, but she said anything
And T is
after
transgender.
T, it just turned into a cult. It became weird. She literally said, I can't even say what I don't even know. But anyways,
So if you were to put a compass, right? Like, at what point do you say, okay, from here on out, it's mental delusion?
oh,
From here on-
look, I don't agree with
yeah.
from the start,
Right.
to be honest, but it never became a problem till after B. Once it got to T and the other half, I think that's when it started to become like kind of concerning.
Interesting.
That's my belief.
Yeah.
I feel like I've always been a person where it's like, I'm gonna mind my own business.
Yeah.
Do whatever it is you want to do. As soon as it gets to a point where it starts to affect me, then we have a problem. And I feel like we hit that when it was like, you see men and women's sports, you see guys who were last place on the swim team or first place, beating these girls, or in wrestling, literally guys punching women out. It's like certain guys are allowed to use women's washrooms. Like, it's like, you just think about it and like you think about your future kids, or you just even think about yourself. Like, sometimes it's just, it's a safety factor. You think, okay, like, there's jokes about it. You can literally get arrested as a man and then just say, oh, I identify as a woman. And then now you're in women's prison. Like, it's like, I'm okay with people doing what they want. But I do think, at some point it does kind of get offensive as a woman to say, well, I'm going through all this. I have my periods. I have emotions. I have all these things. And you're just going to claim you're a woman. Again, it's a touchy topic. You know what I'm saying?
In my opinion, like, I was always cool with everything. I don't got no problems with nobody.
Yeah.
There's been people around me that were gay too, and
Me too.
shoot, I would dap them up. Like, we chill out, maybe have a couple of drinks,
And just to add to that point, I don't know what it is, but it's like, as much as I am a conservative and I have conservative values, I know I am, I still get along very well with liberal people. Like, I worked downtown this summer, and it's just like I can't sit here and be like, oh, like, I don't get along with people who are on the far left, maybe. But like, if you're on the, like, I've never been, I don't know if this is because I grew up in the Gen Z era, and like you said, like, social media has such a huge impact on us, but there's a lot of things that, like, I'm okay with. Like, I remember I showed you, RJ, this one guy. He was light skinned. I can't remember his name. He had like blue eyes.
Yeah,
and
he's confused.
Yeah, so he doesn't. RJ doesn't like him, but I love him.
No, I don't mind him. Okay,
I love him.
So what's the story there?
Basically, he's this guy. I can't remember his name. I want to remember his name because he's actually so funny. But he's a gay guy.
Okay.
Speaks gay, but like, he has conservative values.
Interesting.
Isn't that not confused?
It is. And I've.
Okay, so
and
how do you
I've-
describe
like,
conservative?
he talks about like hypergamy and how women, know your worth, know your value. You should have a man that's opening doors for you. You should, like, he goes deep. Or even this other guy named Anwar. He's actually a dating coach for Black and brown women. That's his whole thing. A dating coach for Black and brown women.
Women need a dating coach?
No, it's there's all types of stuff on social media these
Wait,
days.
so what would you? Because it's gonna go deep into your point. But
Okay.
what would you consider conservative values then?
Conservative values?
Yeah.
2-parent household, man and women. The man provides.
Okay, so then from that alone, how does that make? How does he have conservative values then?
Because of what he talks about. He doesn't act it, but he.
So how can you talk about something that you can't?
So I was
I don't
listening
know.
to a podcast
But
there, just to answer your question. So, I mean, like, I had this doubt, right? So I was trying to find an answer for, okay, so I just want to understand. So when people say they're born gay, that means, like, when you walk around, you naturally get turned on by another man. It was very hard for me to comprehend. because I don't understand that feeling, right?
Sorry,
So-
can I just ask, were you born here or in India?
India.
Okay,
I
okay.
moved here in 2015.
Is that like normalized in India? Like, has it reached?
Now it is, because
Oh,
West,
wow.
everything you see in West is cool, and everyone wants to adapt. The
Oh,
rest of the
no.
world acts like they look. So West is kind of like the role model, so to speak. And
Yeah.
then they look at West. Oh yeah, they're having LGBTQ. Let's have this.
Yeah.
Right? 'Cause see, I was having a conversation with one of my buddies. Actually, it's off topic, but he was telling me how one of his cousins just started identifying as one of this, alphabets, because she had some issues with her parents. Her parents would never let her leave the house. So, as a result of toxic parents, since she was not able to find her crowd, at some point she decides for herself, all right, I'm going to pledge myself to this community so I can
Right.
belong somewhere. That happens a lot, right? Sorry, we were talking about...
I think no, you were just saying how like you couldn't really understand.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so if it's actually true that if it's if it's something like men come up with at some point, no, I'm not going to try women. I'm just going to go for. Is it like an intentional or is it natural?
No.
I think it's.
No.
I'll be honest. I think it's something that has been put in the school system, and when when you have a young impressionable mind, especially when you're a child and you're trying to figure out your identity, hearing gay this everywhere, you are naturally going to think that's normal, and that's why you will see a lot of kids that are kind of going into that. They were putting it inside the curriculum, and that's why even when I was in school, you would walk around and there'd be signs of asexual, transgender. Yeah, there would be signs.
When you were in school?
Yeah, it was described. I remember
I
in
thought
high
it just
school.
came up in the last 2 years. No.
No, when I was in high school, there would literally be signs of like asexual, this is transgender, this is what this, basically just to describe and identify what these different things, like, it got next level.
Oh,
it's like
okay.
pansexual, there's,
What's pansexual?
I forget. I think it's when you're attracted
It's-
to
I don't even
animals
know.
or inanimate objects.
See, it's all
getting
ridiculous,
it's getting
but
ridiculous.
It really comes down to parents. Like that's really
So
because
that's what Joe Rogan talked about. Sorry, go on.
yeah, no, like it really just comes down to parents and how they raise their children and that's why two-parent household is super, super, super important. And just even the fact that over I think the last 20 years, the percentage of single the percentage of single mothers increased by like 40%. And so that could also be a direct correlation with how many people are identifying as one of the alphabets before they're even 20 years old. Because think about it, if you have a child, if you have a 5-year-old son, and he's now starting to, kind of just play games, like, oh, like I feel like I'm a girl. I like Barbie. And then you have the mother who's really encouraging, which is a good trait that women and mothers are very encouraging and nurturing, but they're going to be like, yeah, if that's how you feel, then, that's what you are. That's what you want to be. But then you have a man that thinks logically and think,
Yeah.
no, you're not a woman. You're a boy.
Yeah.
Like, this is who you are. Like, we grew up playing with wrestlers, the action
Yeah.
figures, Transformers.
Just mud.
Yeah, like
Out in the
Transformers,
field.
just very, and those are things that my dad bought me. I feel like that those would be things that dads buy their sons. But when you accept these things from your child who doesn't know any better and you encourage it, that's how these things come about.
So-
Can I just
Sorry,
say
go on,
something
go on,
to
go
that?
on.
Because it's like, it's so interesting. I can always tell when a guy has been raised with two parents versus one.
you could tell.
How so?
It's very obvious.
Femininity.
They're very feminine, and they're very like.
So the guys who are raised by two parents are feminine?
No, the
opposite.
opposite. Like, if
Okay.
you were raised by your mother, I find that men are usually like, they're more sensitive, which is nice. They're a little bit more open with their emotions, but they do lack that sturdiness that comes from the father, and that's why it's like it's so important to be in a two-parent household, because it's like those lines are blurred. Like, there's this saying, and even Fresh and Fit always says it. He's like I never argue with women, because it's like arguing with a woman, going back and forth when you're a logical man is very feminine. You should be able to identify the problem as a man, see that maybe she's emotional at this point in time, and de-escalate the situation. I've literally been in, I don't want to say beef, but like arguments with like some guy friends, and it's very feminine. Like, I don't know.
It's all
you know,
emotion.
Can I do a callback?
What do you mean?
I mean, earlier you said like how Candace Owens was having an argument with her husband.
She was?
She was having a debate with her husband.
Oh, debate. Okay, yeah.
And he was going back and forth.
Yeah. Well,
But
I feel
yeah.
like debate is
It's
different from
different. It's
argument.
Okay.
Like, I'm going to bring it up. Like, one time I got into this argument with
Okay.
one of my friends over $10. Like, $10. And this is a guy.
Okay.
Like, the situation was so... Like, he drove me down the street. We were going to, like, some party. And he wanted me to pitch $10 on the gas. So I'm like, honestly, like, I'll just Uber. But then I realized the Uber was going to be $10 anyway. So I was like, whatever, I'll put money in my friend's pocket. And to make a long story short, he wanted the money back. He was just so big. Okay. He was just so big on, like, trying to get the money back. And, like, it just turned into a whole argument. We went back and forth. It was a mess. And to this day, like, our relationship is still rocky. So it's like...
Sorry. So she asked for $10 and you give in $10.
I gave him the...
So what's the problem?
Well, I didn't... I think I tried to e-transfer him, but it didn't go through because I forgot the password. He couldn't remember it. So I was like, I'll give you the cash when I see you. Because you know when you cancel e-transfers, it'll charge you $5 or something. So I'm like, I'm already losing money on a $10 transaction. I'd rather just give you cash. And I don't know. He got upset because it was just
For
taking a
$10?
while. $10.
Interesting. Okay.
So you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like as a man, like I feel like a real masculine man would have so much ego. And me and RJ have talked about this, where it's like you wouldn't want to feel like you would feel embarrassed to be asking for $10. Okay, fine. I did say my word, but I said I was gonna give it to you when I see you. Why is this such a big deal? And like it's not about the situation. I'm just using that example because it's like that's such a feminine trait. I feel like this whole situation could have been avoided if the guy said, you know what, we're just going down the street. I'm a provider. I don't mind driving her. Like,
But
know
were
what I-
you like what was the relationship you were in? Were you like boyfriend girlfriend or were you
No,
just
we
friends?
were just friends.
So that I mean, isn't that a bit different then?
I guess, but
Right.
but this is where
You
this
know
is-
what I'm saying? Yeah.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I watched this podcast. I think it might have been Fresh and Fit too, but it was
Okay.
basically talking about how, as a man, yeah, it was Fresh and Fit. He was like, as a man, there's a lot less, what's the word? Benefits to being friends with women.
1000%. That's what I was about to
Yes,
ask you.
'cause
Should
he-
a man be ever friends with a woman?
Because and he would say as a woman, it's easy for you because you expect me to be masculine all the time.
yeah,
They-
and there's that saying: every woman want a gay, friend,
Best friend, yes.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's just that, but I think it's more pertaining to the fact that, like, okay, like, for example, if I'm in the drive-thru with my masculine guy friends, they're gonna pay for the food. Like, if I just want something small, they're gonna pay for it. If there's this example that Fresh uses, he's like, if I was on the street and my bag, I know it's so dramatic, but my bag gets ripped out my hands from a burglar, I'm gonna look to the guy and be like, yo, get my bag, like, help me, like, so
Yeah,
it's
now
like,
as a man, like having a friendship with a woman, we're now obligated to
Yeah.
protect that woman as if it's ours, even though it's not our woman.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're putting our
Yes.
lives on the line for a woman that's not even ours.
Yeah.
yes.
And like you were probably saying, I mean, I just came back and
So, in your perspective, is it worth having a woman like best friend or
the thing
something?
is,
like,
like,
or would you like how would you?
this is
Yeah.
like,
What's your
I don't
take
know
on
why.
it? Yeah.
I don't even know why it's because every time I talk about this, it's like I get looked at crazy. But like, why would we even need a woman as a quote unquote best friend for what? And why would a woman?
Wow, RJ. Nah, I'm joking. I'm joking.
No, but we do a lot of stuff together.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
But
I'm just joking.
I mean, like, why would a man or woman need the other opposite gender?
I mean, the
as a
point
best
of view
friend?
is so fascinating for me.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
the women expect the same regardless of if we are called the best friend or
Yeah.
my boyfriend,
Be masculine.
right? But on the men's side, sorry, go on. You were saying
No, but yeah, literally, like we get nothing out of it. Nor
Fair. I will say fair.
And so yeah, it's just like, what's the point of that? And then if I were to get a girlfriend, and it's like I have this girl best friend too, and it's just like weird, because girls feel a type of way too.
They do.
So all of this for what? For no reason. I get nothing out of that.
I'm not denying that you guys don't get anything.
Yeah.
But I will agree, especially with my values and how it's changed over the years, I would agree that I expect men to be masculine in all situations.
interesting.
I do.
Yeah.
Before I used to be like, no, it's okay. Or, we're going somewhere. Yeah, I'll pick.
Yeah, because in my head, like, if
Be a
we are
man.
friends, it has to be fair, back and forth, right? there's no like, we do like equal roles if we are friends. Now, if you're my girlfriend, that's a different story.
Yeah, okay.
That's my perspective in my head, right?
Okay.
But
Be honest with me. Be honest with me.
Yeah.
Sorry, maybe I'm being a little petty right now.
Yeah.
But if say we're friends, right?
Right.
And we're going down the street and we're both going to a party to enjoy, you're gonna charge me $10? I just need to know.
relative. So I mean,
It's 5 minutes down the road.
$10. No, I let that go. But if it's like $3,000,
Three
yeah,
grand.
I'll
Serious.
give it to my girlfriend, no problem.
Okay. Oh,
Right? Like, but if it's
I like him.
yeah, but like if it's my, if it's just a friend,
No fair.
like we have to, we have to treat each other fairly,
Yeah.
right?
So this
Or
is-
else it's kind of like confusing too, right? Because when you get emotionally involved, you start having feelings, and in a way, the girl is actually leading you on if she's kind of like not treating it fairly, sort of.
Okay. I get what you're saying.
Because if you're emotionally invested in it, right?
Yeah.
Now let's go for a hike, right? I'll plan the whole thing out. I understand, like I'm much better at this. If something comes your way, I'll protect you. No,
Okay,
no
yeah,
questions asked,
yeah.
right? But when things get, things gets to a point where you have to, let's say we're planning a trip to BC. Now we're looking at the whole thing and we're going, okay, we're just friends,
Fair.
right?
Fair.
And you have to do some role. Maybe I'll do all that, hiking and all that stuff. Maybe you could do, okay, which car to rent, things like that. You could just go online, look it up. So there has to be some sort of like equal amount of effort if
Yeah.
we are friends.
I guess what I'm saying, full circle moment, is
Yeah.
like, yeah, there is an expectation for men to be masculine all the time, and I feel like there's, like, I mean, I don't know how big the expectation, you tell me, for women to be feminine, but it does come across as a little feminine when a guy can't fulfill those roles all the time. I don't know. Maybe you have a different value in your friendship. Maybe you have a different understanding.
So let me ask you
and
a
that's-
question there.
Okay.
So let's say we're planning a trip to Algonquin, a road trip.
Okay.
Right? We're going to go for a hike for a day.
Yeah.
Just outdoors, right? Now we're friends. So I've planned it out. I'm going to go pick you up from Ajax. I'm going to drive down from London.
Okay.
Right? Now I woke up around 5 o'clock because I have to pick you up at like 7:30.
Okay.
So we can get there by like 10 o'clock. Right? Now, by the time I get there by 7:30, you don't have to worry about nothing. I pay for the gas. I'm masculine here, right?
Okay.
You're just tagging along with me,
Love
and I'm
it.
taking care of you.
Love it so far.
The question is, when you come out, like when I'm by your door, when you come out, are you gonna bring me breakfast? Right?
No, but see, and I'm gonna flip the question back to you.
Yeah.
That's why I don't know. Like, is there that same expectation back? Do you because I will confidently speak for women. Yeah, I do think there's an expectation for men to be masculine. If my bag gets stolen and you don't do anything, like, you're weird. I'm not saying it's an expectation, but if we are in the drive-thru and it's a quick little 2-second, okay, if we're going down the road, is gas that important? Like, you can provide that.
Yeah.
But hold on. I guess, the question is, for women, is it the same? Do you expect those feminine things?
I mean,
Yeah.
like, it just goes back to what I was saying. Like, for what I can't. I don't even know if I could really answer that question because I don't have any relationship with any women where I'm seeing them on a regular basis. So, like, I'm not really in that position too much to even begin with, to be honest. But one thing I was telling Benita about the situation, it's like, I mean, I feel like as a man in general, at least for me, I try not to have broke tendencies. I think it's so
Love it.
important. Yeah. I like
Love
just to
it.
not have broke tendencies. And I'm not saying to always act rich and always like not look like you're broke. I mean, $10 is $10. It's not going to kill your, it's not going to ruin your life. You're still going to you still have a house and clothes and food.
You're probably gonna turn around and buy a burger and $10.
Yeah,
goes,
exactly. So
right?
$10 isn't worth like having that tendency that makes you come off as broke, because especially when you're the type of person, you're trying to build something for yourself, you're trying to become successful. The last thing you want to do is have these thoughts where money is super, super important.
But I think that's what makes you masculine, and that's why it's like, to bring this all full circle. It's those little things that reveals to me a guy who was raised with two parents, and one, it's like, do you see that? Okay, I'm a woman, and even though we're not dating, this is still kind of ingrained in you, or do you look at me as an equal and, oh, if I'm going down the road, you better pay? Like, do you have those differences? And you saying this is just, it's a revelation. I can see you were given those values from a young age. So that's your perspective, and it makes sense.
No,
So
it's super important. Super
Now, I
important.
mean, like for men out there, like they also have to kind of watch out. If they're constantly being taken advantage of,
Yes.
they should be
Yes.
just like,
You're right.
just staying back and
Yeah.
sort of, yeah.
It goes back to what I was saying like earlier too. You gotta have that balance, and it's so hard
Because
to
it's
explain.
not it's nothing it's nothing against masculine or feminine. It's just like your time can be better spent elsewhere. You could
Yes.
right.
you're
You
not
don't
wrong.
want to. You don't want to always be giving your like. You don't want to be inconveniencing yourself for
Yeah.
a woman, and that is when they talk about simp. Like simp isn't like treating women well or treating women with respect. That's not simp. I feel like my definition of what a simp is inconveniencing yourself as a man for the benefit of a woman. Inconveniencing yourself.
It's a good definition.
If you're talking about like going to the party and it's on and you're on the way and you just want to ride and
Yeah.
it's literally on the way. I mean, to pick you up and not
ain't
ask
nothing
for
serious.
money is not inconveniencing myself. Now, if the
I like
party's
that definition, RJ.
it's true.
I like
it's
that.
True. Like if the party's in the east and you're in the west and you want to ride, like, and you're not my girl, I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah, pitch.
do-
Fair.
bring something.
Yeah.
bring something.
Yeah.
But no, like, just don't inconvenience yourself for the benefit of other women. That's it.
That's a good definition.
That's really good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that.
So, going back to the other topic we talked about, so the whole idea of gay, right? I don't know if Joe Rogan spoke to this. I mean, spoke to not Elon Musk, probably Theo Wan. They were having an open conversation about it, and he said it's typically the kids of promiscuous women. That means like, I mean, traditionally, let's say 100 years ago, if there's this family with like over 10 kids, so these women really liked sex, and that gene gets, sort of like into their kids, inherited to the
Yeah.
boys, and then those boys would then crave more men, and that's
Crave more men?
yeah. So like
Oh.
these women, they kind of like craved sex. I mean, like the way he phrases it is this woman craved dick, so that that gets like inherited by the kids, and then some of those boys, like a couple of those boys, would turn gay, and that's where it kind of stemmed off of.
I don't know about that. I just
I haven't heard that.
I don't think it matters
Yeah.
about the past. I think it just matters about how the parents are just raising. The
This
children.
is what they told, like it's probably it's
That's
Theo
it.
Warren. It's not like a biology science.
For
or-
me, I'm sorry. Like it's I don't have kids yet,
Yeah.
but I'm just speaking from a first person perspective of the future. It's my kids. I'm gonna do whatever I want. Like
Yeah.
whoever, like no one's gonna tell me how to raise my kids. But for me, like
have you seen that movie Captain Fantastic?
no,
No, it's about this couple who raises their kids off grid, homeschool. They are totally detached from the system, but they're not like stupid. They learn the Constitution. They're very smart. As a matter of fact, they're smarter than the people in the city, but they're like raised off grid. And I was like, okay, this looks great. These kids are super smart. They understand, like, they can sort of like differentiate between right and wrong. But is it actually practical? And then I actually run into someone who was actually homeschooled. This kid is super smart. He's not antisocial. That whole idea of like homeschool kids cannot talk to other people. It's
it's a fallacy. Yeah,
no, it's not. Yeah, it's not true.
yeah.
You could actually. And
Candace Owens said the same thing. Her children are homeschooled as well. But the way I look at it, because I feel like either private, like for me, I feel like I'm either gonna want to do private school or homeschooling. But I mean, with the whole antisocial thing, I mean, you just put them in sports. They get they get that same social.
yeah, they kind of like
environment as
hang
well.
out in the community. But like what's stood out for me is in my head I was like, it's a lot of work.
A
If
lot
you-
of work for what?
For like if you're like teaching your kid everything,
right.
teaching
Oh,
your
if you
kid
could hire- if
science,
you could hire somebody to do
social.
it.
No, but like the truth is, what this kid told me is, I asked him like, so wasn't it too hard for his mom was like stay-at-home mom, right? His dad was the provider, mom was staying at home and like taking care of the kids. Now, so I asked him like, isn't that a lot of work? And then he said, well, you think it's a lot of work because you are relating that to how your school went. Basically, you go to school, your teacher teaches you each subject, right? Here, they're not teaching you the subject, they're teaching you how to learn. They're not teaching you the subject, they're teaching you how you can learn by yourself.
Okay.
So the skill they learn is not like my skill through and through grade 12 is how to get 80% mark for 80% out of 100%. This kid's skill is how to learn maths, how to learn science.
I hear you. Yeah,
Do you understand the difference?
Yeah.
I mean, a big thing in like in just public school is, I mean,
Because once his mom assigns him something, it's him who's studying by himself. It's not like his
Yeah.
mom sitting down and like teaching him every single formula.
Because at school they teach you how to be workers. Like it's I never really watched the full documentary, but I heard this like documentary of like where how school was invented, and it was literally to show people how to just listen to be told what to do and to be factory workers and just stand in line. Like
Yeah.
it's not meant for people to like be an entrepreneur and
Independent
become
thinker,
yeah, and independent and make your own money and build an empire. It's not meant for that.
you know, it's so
Schools-
crazy.
Yeah.
So, because did you end up listening to Outwitting the Devil?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
you listened to
twice,
that?
three
Did you listen
times.
to that?
No, I've never.
Or,
You
Really.
gotta listen to it.
Or
Yeah.
interview with the devil on YouTube, but so
Is it a
pretty
book
much-
or a video?
both? So
Both.
Interview with the Devil is on YouTube, but it's pretty much just like a reenactment of the book, which is Outwitting the Devil.
Outwitting
So-
the Devil.
So Interview with the Devil is actually pretty cool how it's structured. So it's
Okay.
like a 4-hour video on YouTube, but there's no like you can't visually see the humans on it. It's still the words on the screen, but the whole premise of it is the author interviewing the devil. So then there's a different voice that plays the character of the devil, and then there's the author who's interviewing him. And basically, the whole premise of it, he's asking the devil, he's interviewing the devil, asking him questions on how the devil kind of gets humans to get sidetracked and to kind of fall in line of what the devil wants in terms of his agenda here on Earth. And one of the things was pretty much just getting you, the words that they use is getting you to
Drifting.
drift. So getting you to drift away from your goals, your ambition, your morals, values, principles, things like that. And then one of them was, well, there's
There's
a scene-
three. Isn't there three things that the
there's-
devil
yeah,
uses to basically?
there's multiple.
Yeah.
But I remember one of the things that the interviewer was saying, he was like, well, I'm gonna turn this into a book, and then if I turn this into a book and everybody reads it, everybody's gonna understand how to outwit the devil, right? So how to basically beat you at your own game. And then he's like, if you write that book, I will prevent you from putting it in schools. I will prevent you from putting it in access where majority of people can actually get it and read it and understand it, learn it, because then I'll lose my power. So just that right there, just the fact that he said, well, if you do write this book, I will not put it in the public schools. So then when you think about today, it's like, it's kind of right. Like these type of books you will not find in public
You won't.
schools to keep us non-educated on things that actually matter. And it doesn't go just for that. It goes for books that are actually going to take you out of the system or the matrix, like they call it, and actually become an independent thinker.
It's like
you know?
Kevin Trudeau when he says in "Your Wish Is Your Command." He's like, a lot of these books that actually teach you about life and how to basically attract anything you want in your life, you won't find them in your regular libraries. Maybe you'll find a couple like what is it called, Think and Grow Rich, but it's like even those books are missing the key principles. The only place you'll find them is in these rich people's houses. You're wondering where it is? It's in our houses.
So you think it'll be better if everyone have access to this information and there was some sort of incentive structure for people to be taught this when they were young? Or do you think it's better off the way it is, where the only seekers would find it, the others won't ever find it?
I guess I have a pretty interesting perspective, and it's like,
Yeah, go for it.
it's very conflicting for me because knowing what I know and where I want to go, it's kind of like an elitist perspective, and I hate saying that. Like an elitist meaning like things that the masses don't, essentially, right? Now, because a part of me thinks if everybody had access this information, then how would the economy function? How would society function? Because we need workers, we need people that are dependent thinkers, not independent thinkers. Because if everybody was independent thinkers, then essentially, who would work for the companies that are owned by the independent thinkers? So it's like I don't know if. But at the same time, what I look at is everybody has the same opportunities. Everybody has the same resources that everybody has.
But here's the
access to.
thing. I don't think, even if everybody had this information, I still think that there would be a huge chunk of people who wouldn't use it. Because it's like, it kind of goes back to like what we were even saying yesterday in the car, where it's like, many are called, few are chosen. Just like you could have the information available to you, like you said, in this day and age, but there's gonna be a lot of people who don't do it. And I remember when I was super in my business bag, I was like, there was this saying that we used to always say where if all the money in the world was divided amongst everybody, like there was no rich, there was no poor, everybody had the exact same amount. After a couple years, all the wealth would be back in the exact same people's pockets that of the people who were wealthy before, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's not about having the money, it's about the mindset, and it's about actually putting it into action. So it's like, okay, sure, you have the money, but sustaining it and keeping it is another thing.
Yeah,
So
because like when they say, knowledge is power, that's like the whole quote. But knowledge isn't power, and then it goes a level deeper where it says applied knowledge is power. But even in my opinion, that's not necessarily powerful as well. Because think about it, so if we talk about investing, having the knowledge that everybody knows they need to invest. Okay, so when they say knowledge is power, the knowledge is I know if I invest in this, I could become a millionaire. I know if I invest in real estate, I could become a millionaire. That's the knowledge. But then the level deeper is applying that knowledge. Now, I can't just say I'm going to go invest. I mean, you know this. You have real estate investments as well. I can't just say I'm going to go invest in a real estate and be successful. It's not that simple. So applied knowledge isn't even power in and of itself. The real power is the execution of the knowledge that you gain, the right execution. So that's why I think even if everybody has access to the same information, or everybody is literally given on a silver platter the information that you need to succeed, majority of people won't even apply it. Then the next majority will apply it, but they won't apply it correctly. The execution will be off, and then there'll still be that 1% or 0.1% that actually execute it properly, and that's how they'll gain the power.
So allow me to make a very interesting, just visualize with me here, okay? 20 years from now. Mm-hmm. Putting things in perspective, let's say we were, if you go with Bible, we were kind of designed as gods. Like God would look similar to us, right?
Mm-hmm.
In a sense.
Made in his image.
Yes. Now, if we were to have his character as creators, we are meant to do creative things. Mm-hmm. 20 years from down the road, all these things that are not creative, redundant, gets done by AI. Right? Forget about wealth. Then every single person gets to be a creative. Now, I don't know if it's practical. I don't know if it's going to happen. But if that was to happen, there could be... Now, I'm not saying 100%.
I think it's going to happen, by the way.
Now, I'm not going to say 100% of the people are going to be, super productive. They're going to be creative. But right now, I feel like there's just 10% who are really killing it. And there's maybe another 10% who are doing okay. But the other 80% are sort of not so good. Mm-hmm. Do you think that proportion is going to change? And about I'm going to say 60 to 70% people are going to do phenomenally well, and there's just going to be just 30%.
Yeah, I actually love talking about this because
he loves.
So this is the
we're
thing.
so opposite on this
especially when it comes to AI. I feel like that's going to be the division, and it's going to completely remove the middle class, and then you're really going to see where people are meant to be. So it's going to remove the middle class.
Why does it remove the middle class?
Because AI is going to replace the jobs of the middle class. So all the middle class people that make 50, 60, 70 grand a year.
So accountants and let's say factory workers. Factory workers.
Yeah, essentially
truck
a
drivers,
lot of these things.
Didn't they fire 10,000 people from, was it Twitter?
Yeah, well, Elon Musk laid off. Yeah, I think 10,000 people. I don't know the exact number. I don't think that was due to AI. I think it was
more like bureaucracy and
cutting
it down.
Just cutting costs,
efficiency.
But now, going forward, there's so much things that AI is starting, and it's developing at rapid speed. It's exponential growth right now, and I think what's his name, the founder of NVIDIA. I think he was talking about how level one, or no, it was Sam Altman actually, the founder of ChatGPT, OpenAI, and he was saying that when it comes to the AI, the large language models, from level 1 to level 2, which was the chat bots and the assistant bots that you see on websites, stuff like that. From level 1 to level 2, it took very long. But then from level 2 to level 4, it was like just a flip of the switch. So he said it's expanding, it's growing exponentially. So what I mean by the middle class is going to get replaced by AI is
yet to have like a breakthrough, right? Because so far what we have experienced is AI, artificial intelligence, as a language model. It has to get to a point where it's AGI, where it's like artificial general intelligence,
yeah,
right?
general intelligence. That's where it's going. I think that's
It's
level
all new
4.
to me.
So
Yeah.
the difference is, so AI, like for instance, my Tesla, right? So right now it has full self-driving. I could literally put a location in the map and the car will take me there. But that's based out of the data it has accumulated over time. Now, if something new comes up and pops up in the road, let's say a construction site, the car gets confused. It doesn't know what to do. Now, what they say is these AI technology, they probably have 17,000 hours of, reading hours stored in the brain. But they don't have the artificial general intelligence of a 4-year-old. The difference is, let me give you an example. If you need to, like, let's say you're like 7th grader, right? If I teach you how to drive a car, you can learn how to drive a car in like 20 days. An AI, as of now, cannot learn how to drive a car in 20 days. The reason is your brain is, I don't know, it could be the senses you have and all that stuff. You just, the artificial general intelligence and just artificial intelligence, that's the difference.
I think I know what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
But like, even if you think about, because at the end of the day, that's where it is going. And at this point, I'm pretty confident Elon Musk is going to pull it off with like full self-driving cars.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, you've seen the taxis the robo taxis that he has and stuff like that. Now, I don't know how fast it's going to take, but even that in and of itself, when you think about the self-driving taxis, then what are Uber drivers going to do? Like, Uber drivers are going to get put out of business. They make maybe like what, 30, 40, 50 grand, depending on how
and he's
hard
doing
they work.
another cool feature where if you have a Tesla, you could just, if you're not driving it, like right now, I could just put it on the renting app and then people could just rent my car.
Exactly.
And then I could sit here and make
so
money.
with the Tesla app, if
Crazy.
if he could be renting out his Tesla right now while we're doing this podcast and be making money, like
That's
crazy. And it'll just come back to the house by itself. So that's where it's. So when you think about it, who's this gonna put out of business? People that put their cars on Turo and Uber drivers. Those are the people that's middle class, and that's just one example. But then when you think about all the other examples of AI replacing jobs, the middle class is gonna completely get distinguished. Is gonna get completely extinct. So then people in the middle class, it's either you have the rich or poor mindset, and depending on what mindset and depending on how you've been preparing for this for the last 2 years and the next 5 years, is either gonna put you in that lower class or that upper class.
So at this point, all you have to do is
crazy.
just align yourself with which group you lean to.
This is crazy.
But here's the thing, and there's
interesting.
There's good and evil. There's negative and positive to each side, because mind you, with the people that are put into the lower class, since the middle class jobs can be ran by AI, essentially the lower class can be living on a universal based income, essentially. So it's like everybody. That's more of like the type of like the communism type of structure where the lower class. It's kind of like during COVID when everybody was getting CERB and the employment insurance, all these checks, and basically free government money, right? But the thing is, you literally get the bare minimum where you could survive. And then you have anything that's essentially communism, right?
Oh my god!
So you need to, but some people are okay with that. There's some people who don't have ambition and who don't have, dreams and desires to do big things in their life.
You have to be oblivious on another level for that.
Yeah,
Because you have to live with no purpose.
You have to live with no purpose, but I also get, because these are the type of people that are they just always stressful, always anxious about the next bill and what's going on. These are the same people that friggin' are emotional and about politics and stuff like that, and really like, this person doesn't get into office, my life is over. If that person doesn't get into office, my life is over. See, the rich class and the rich mindset, essentially, we care about who is in office, but it's not going to change what we do on a day-to-day basis. And that's the difference. So these people that are they play victim, and they always blame other people in the government for what their life looks like. Those are the people that if the government says, look, you're going to get $3,000 a month and you're good, you could pay your bills, you could put food on the table, you could take care of your family, and that's what we're going to get, and you don't have to work. They're going to be happy about that, because they're always playing victim. They're always like, they're always blaming somebody else at work.
This is modern day slavery, eh? This reminds me of when Kevin Trudeau.
But it's a voluntary slavery,
Yeah.
Nobody's forcing them.
Exactly, but I remember Kevin Trudeau said this. He was like, you are a slave. I will never forget the way he said it in the audio podcast. It's this podcast. You have to listen to it. It's called Your Wish is Your Command. Change Your Life. RJ knows. That's my favorite podcast.
Canadian?
No relation to Justin Trudeau.
Yeah,
People
so
always,
because
no,
she
no,
said
no.
Trudeau. I
realized
was
that,
like,
yeah.
Everyone always thinks that. It's no,
Yeah.
it'll change your life. It'll change your mindset. And one thing he says it blatantly. You are a slave. Think about what a slave is. You're given just enough food to survive, a roof over your head, and whatever. That's what a slave was back in the day. These days, you're a slave, but they make you work for it now. So if you think about it, you go to a job, economy and inflation is so high. You're making just enough to survive, just enough to pay your bills. You're literally living paycheck to paycheck. And you have no freedom to do actually what you want. You get maybe
Yeah.
one vacation a year.
To be honest, that I guess like my perspective on that is that's because of the value that you have assigned to money. If you assign your entire life worth to money, I think that's where it kind of like breaks down and you get to that space. So we'll go right back to assigning value for money. So what I was trying to say is basically, I feel like people have to detach themselves from money. As in, like, if you want to travel around the world, right? The old concept was you have to save up to it and all that stuff. Right now, you could just literally pack your bags, leave your job, and just start traveling. There's nothing stopping you. You don't have to. You don't have to think about, okay, how am I going to survive?
No.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you're, like you're saying in terms of, because not anybody can just do that, right?
You just have to have the guts. Like what I'm trying to say is, okay, so if you want to start traveling, right? For instance, if you want to travel to, let's say, the other side of Canada to BC, right? You need to get a flight ticket. It's like $400, right? What is stopping you from picking up a job at the Tims, work there a week, or work 2 weeks, you make $800. You can travel to BC, you can record the whole thing, you can put it out there, and you could monetize it some way or the other, and then you can keep growing it in that way. So instead of focusing on chasing the money, you could just actually think about like what makes you happy, and think about a way. Okay, what makes you happy in terms of what are the things that you enjoy doing, and how are what are the ways people would pay you for doing the things that you love to do. How can you bring up some value with it? I feel like when you assign money, that's the whole game. Your worth is basically having $1 million or $2 million. That's where the stress comes from. That's where the anxiety comes from. That's where you think about debt and all that stuff. So, for instance, if I want to truly execute a podcast platform and this is everything that I want to do, I wouldn't mind putting everything I own at stake, including the house. Now, the reward that I get if it succeeds is everything I would potentially get, and I can continue to do the thing that I absolutely love for the rest of my life. The consequences, if it doesn't go where I think it would, I could lose everything. But I'm okay to pay that price for the potential reward that I could get.
Yeah, it's all risk to reward at the end of the day.
Right.
Now, with that being said, like you still have to be pragmatic in everything that you're doing. So you have to be very calculated with, your approach to going about things too, because and yeah, like just being logical about the moves that you're making, and like I said, being very calculated, because like the last thing you want to do, like I've learned it the hard way, quitting your job too early as an entrepreneur is very detrimental. Like
Don't do it.
I remember like, when I mean Benita and I were in a couple MLM businesses.
Me too.
And
Yeah.
yeah, there you go.
I brought him in.
Yeah, and then actually, yeah, you did bring me in. Yeah, both times.
Great experience. I never knew what I gave, but
But yeah, so, and then even aside
last
from
time when we met, you were with World Financial Group, right?
oh, I still am.
You still am,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
yeah.
You know
yeah.
about WFG?
Yeah, he was
me
with
too.
He was in WFG.
That's
yeah.
where we connected. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, pretty essentially on
Not
on,
through World Financial Group, but
but like on
became-
LinkedIn.
So why'd you
just through-
leave?
Me, I was when it got tough, I gave up, and I started mortgage brokering, and then I realized it's exactly the same thing,
It was
right?
the same thing.
But then I was like, I started mortgage brokering, so I'll just stick to mortgage brokering. And then I got good at it, and then I started having clients coming to me. So, and plus, I feel like to do anything, like for instance, mortgage brokering or World Financial Group, it takes the same amount of effort. But to scale it up and be one of the top Gs in it, it would take considerably more effort, and you will have to really commit to it.
For
Anything you do, right?
okay.
And these two things I didn't have, let's say, I mean, I'm really good at it, but like I didn't have that like passion or commitment to get behind it for the long haul.
Okay, I see what you're
right?
saying.
Versus something like this, even if the consequence, like I said, is me failing and losing absolutely everything I have, I don't mind it because I absolutely enjoy the journey.
That's how you. Okay, that's how you know it's
Yeah,
something you're
as long
passionate
as
about.
again, like as long as because yeah, you need to be. I don't even want to say you need to be passionate about it. You need to definitely enjoy the process, but you also have to be very logical and calculated on, you know, like what the outcome is gonna look like, and
But here's my
you know what I
here's
mean.
my like sort of like rebuttal to it, right? So when I look back at my life right now, I absolutely love every single failures I've had, whether that's the breakups I've had, whether that's the failed businesses that I've been a part of, and I just look back and I go, all right, I'm not. I mean, fortunately, I'm not in a position where I have to provide for anyone. I don't have a family at this point who's dependent on me financially. So why not take full advantage of it and do all kinds of stuff that I want to do? And let's say 3, 4, 5 years down the road, I'm like early 30s and I lose everything. As long as God provides me with health, I can build it all up.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's
Yeah,
definitely the best position and the best time to take the most risk. But when I say, you know, you still need to be pragmatic in the moves that you make, it's like still understanding, okay, if I do this, exactly how much money can I expect to make, and how much effort is it going to take for me to make a certain amount of money, and what are things like who are the right people that I need to hire, and then what's my bottom line going to be? What's my margins going to be? Um, you know, just so many things to think about rather than just thinking as long as I find my passion and just put my all into it, then it's gonna work out. Like you still need to think, okay, this is my passion, but how do I make sure that without a doubt I'm still going to get the monetary results that I am looking to achieve? You know what I mean?
I do, and I also think that's a bit of chicken and egg kind of situation. I'll explain what I mean. You kind of have to get your hands dirty first, right?
For sure.
And then you learn, and it's a trial and error. So there's that whole thing about how Adam and Eve, and then God asked not to eat the fruit, and the power Eve and Adam would get if they ate the fruit is they would be able to judge between good or evil. But the God didn't want them to have that, because if they have the power to judge between good and evil, their life experience becomes so limited, so to speak. You have to be in a position where you're sort of naive, where you really don't judge. You kind of learn it from the experience. Now, I'm not saying be stupid, right? I would tell, like, just be naive in the beginning. It's okay to be naive. You can trial as long as you have the persistence in you
But I think
to get back up.
I think that's from like kind of like your going back to your wishes, your command. You don't know what you don't know, so that's um, incompetent incompetence, or no,
Conscious incompetence
conscious
or
conscious
unconscious incompetence.
unconscious
Yeah.
incompetence. Yes, unconscious incompetence is you don't know what you don't know, right? So when you first get into the business world and entrepreneurship, you don't know that you need to be calculated and pragmatic with the moves that you make. And why can I say this? Because I went through that. You know what I mean? I would just think like, okay, I know people are making money from trading, from day trading, crypto. So if I just put my money in day trading and crypto and press a couple buttons, then I'll be making money too. It doesn't work like that. You need to be calculated and pragmatic with the things that you're doing. Um, but so if people can understand that quicker, then they'll get to where they want a lot faster. So now instead of saying like, oh, there's people that are doing podcasts and they're clearly making money, so all they need to do is just buy a camera, buy a couple microphones, and just talk. No, it doesn't work like that. You
Yeah.
need to be interesting. You need to be somewhat competent. You need to be entertaining. You need to be giving value. You need to be empowering. Whatever it is that your niche is, then you need to put a plan together on, okay, if I get this many followers, this many subscribers, 5,000, 10,000, what is going to be my monetization strategy? Am I going to sell a product? Am I going to sell merch? Am I going to sell a course? Am I going to try to funnel them into a community where I kind of build closer personal relationships and then do business with them? It's like, so this is what I mean. It's not just as black and white as let me just start a podcast, let me just start investing, let me just start trading, and things will follow. Like you need to be calculated on the phases.
So let me ask you something. You have like around 100,000 followers on Instagram. Did you step on it like by accident, or just like was it like calculated?
I wish it
Right.
was by
It was definitely
accident.
calculated.
Yeah.
He
So
knows.
tell me the story.
Yeah. It's it just happened during the pandemic. I was just like You know, I had a certain experience happen to me. I was like in the UK for like a pageant, and then like, you know, I didn't win. 19 years old, you know, you're crushed. Came home
Did
and
you
I
have an
was,
Instagram account at that point?
yeah, I mean, we all did, right?
So how many followers were?
Maybe like 4 or 5K. Like it
Okay,
was
so
nothing crazy.
yeah.
Yeah, and then I just said to myself, I'm like, I'm gonna make myself so big that the people in the UK who said I wasn't good enough, they're gonna notice me. And so I just started on TikTok. I would make content. I would make videos. I knew that I liked to make people laugh. I knew that I wanted to be an actress. So I was like, okay, like I feel like social media is the route we're going. Like I noticed the trend. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna just get myself out there. I don't know what the entire plan is, but I know that I want to get myself seen. So yeah, I just kept posting. A couple videos went viral, a couple videos were posted on the Shade Room. And then I think I hit the point of, okay, fame is nice, but are we making any money here, you know? And especially being a Canadian influencer, it's a lot harder to actually make money. Like the government does not allow us to make money as much as our American counterparts. It's like for example on TikTok, the creator program, it's $1 per 1,000 views. I have videos that have hit 13 million, 20 million, 15 million. That's like what, 15 grand, 10 grand, 12 grand, but I can't benefit a single dime because I'm Canadian. So I had to start thinking, okay, how am I going to start making money off of this? And I've had a couple of avenues. One thing I started was like a hair brand. So like I sell hair and beauty products. And then I'm looking to get into like the mentorship because I do think I figured out a formula in terms of how to go viral. So I was actually, beginning of this year, I was writing a ebook. It's called How to Go Viral on Command. And it's actually based off of the podcast Your Wish is Your Command. So like I kind of just made it into my own thing because I really learned the algorithm to the point where like I would literally say this video is gonna go viral, and it would. Like I literally made it a joke on my stories where I would be like, all right guys, watch, this video is gonna go viral. I literally post the video 2-3 days later at 2 mil or 1 mil. So
Interesting.
It's very intentional, right?
Yeah.
Because, like,
There's a formula
you'd
for
agree,
sure.
and this is with everything. You can't just say you need to take action. And it goes back to what I was saying. Knowledge isn't power. Applied knowledge isn't power. The right execution of knowledge is power. So I have the knowledge that I know if I post enough, then like that's what I need to like. If you want to build a brand, you need to post a lot. That's knowledge, but it's not powerful, right? Mm-hmm. And then applied knowledge is actually doing it, actually posting consistently every single day or twice a day, 3 times a day, whatever it is. That's the applied knowledge. Mm-hmm. But then the execution is now understanding the formula on what's the right hook that I need to have, mm-hmm. what's the type of series that I need to do, like what type of things are gonna gain traction, be controversial, stir up a conversation. So that's the actual proper execution, and that's what's powerful.
I feel like 48 Laws, like if there's one thing that I learned from that book, like I said, it wasn't my favorite, but I still think it was essential in my journey of like entrepreneurship and stuff, because it taught me that like nothing happens by accident. Like all these people who are in the media, all these people who are like successful in any avenue, it was not by accident.
Especially Trump. Like
Trump. Like if you like, and RJ does it all the
accident.
time, but if you actually analyze Trump and the things that he's done, it's like there's one rule in 48 Laws where it's like you court attention at all costs and basically understand that the most highly successful people are either completely hated or we completely love you. Like there's no in the middle. Like if you think of Kim Kardashian, either you have an opinion and you're like, oh my gosh, they're fake, their family's plastic, oh, they're this, they're that, why are they famous for nothing? Or you're like, I love Kim, I'm gonna get a BBL like her, blah, blah, blah. Or it's like Trump. Either you're a die-hard Trump fan or you hate his guts, he's a misogynist, blah, blah. Andrew Tate. Either you Andrew Tate, or you're, oh, he's a misogynist, he's this, he's that. So it's like...
I just want to ask something real quick, because it was just funny, because it really determines your importance in this world, right? Mm-hmm. Because like you're saying, it's either you're loved or you're hated.
Yeah.
If you're working to be liked by everybody, you're going to be, you're not going to have no real value and no real influence. And so it's like you want to strive to a point. I mean, depending on who you are. Again, it goes back to the poor mindset versus wealthy mindset and whatever you're trying to do. But the way I look at it is the people that are very influential with a lot of power, that are usually very, very successful. It's either they're getting death threats or love letters. That's the way I look at
Pretty
it.
much.
So just one question on that note, though. Like, there's also a period of time where you kind of like, you want to be on the extremes. You want to express yourself as one side, but you don't have enough information to be one side or the other.
Wait, what do you mean?
What do you mean? Like, you don't have enough information on...
As in, like, you know, for instance, like the other day, me and my boys, we were doing a podcast, right?
Okay.
So the topic we picked was if media is telling you the truth, or are they supposed to tell you the truth, but they're not actually telling you the truth? This was the topic, right?
Okay.
So, we were doing the research. You know, we wanted to do like, you know, proper podcast. We wanted to like provide like information which is accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm sitting down, I'm doing research. My mindset before getting into it is I want to kind of like strip them apart. Like, you know, I just want to be able to bash media, traditional media to its core and say all kinds of bad things about media. And then I started dissecting their responsibilities, their, you know, fundamentals. And I realized media is not one of the official wings like judiciary or legislative assembly. Media is just media, which just, it's not supposed to tell you the truth or the other ways. It would just repeat everything it sees. It's up to the people to kind of like take a step back. And
Yeah, but without free speech platforms like X, you don't have all the different angles and all the different, like angles to each situation. You only have
It's
one
true.
opinion.
True.
You know, and it's very controlled.
But people getting pissed off at CNN or MSNBC, it's actually bad for people because they don't have control on their thing, right?
Well, like the people do, but there's still people that do have control on what they publish and what they promote and things of that nature.
So in a free market, what's going to happen is, let's say CNN and MSNBC keeps putting these content out, they lose their credibility. What's going to happen is people are going to
they've
stop
lost
watching
their
it.
credibility over
Yes.
the last 5 years.
So there
was a massive drop.
And then people stops watching it. And at some point they will have to, all right, now we don't even have money to run our business. Let's do something that actually
Well,
brings
if you
in
notice,
customers, right?
notice a huge change in CNN, which is crazy because they've always been anti-Trump.
Correct.
Ever since Trump started, they used to be,
Left
pretty-
lenient. What's that guy's name? Don Lemon. Fucking
Yeah,
hate that guy.
yeah,
you know?
yeah. But before Trump ran for office, when he was just a businessman, the media loved him. As soon as he ran for
Yeah, the
office,
TV
the media
programs.
completely turned on him. Because CNN they're probably funded by majority Democrats, majority of the left. So if Trump is running as a Republican, they can't be hyping up Trump because they're going against the people that are funding them, right? Pretty much the media machine. But what's crazy is that it comes to a point now, like you were saying, is that they're losing their credibility so much. And who are they losing it to? They're losing it to podcasters and free speech platforms like Twitter/X from Elon Musk. And the only thing that's going to keep them in business is Trump, right? Because all they talk about is Trump. So if you notice, like towards the last like month of the election, they were a little bit more civil and
Neutral?
they were actually and they weren't it didn't seem like they were trying to be anti-Trump like they usually have been. It seemed like they were actually trying to make it fair and make it equal and actually like even saying good things about Trump here and there as well. And the way I look at it is because if Trump doesn't get in office, who gets in office? Kamala, but she's boring. Like she has no substance, she has no personality when she's on camera. So what are they going to talk about? Me personally, I never watched CNN unless Trump was in the headline, because they're on YouTube and stuff like that too. So I look at it like, if that's the case for me, it's probably the case for a majority of people too, right? And that's how they get their views. So if Trump didn't get in office, I mean, they would probably lose a lot of their viewership to
Oh, that's an interesting perspective.
places where Trump is still going on, like podcasts and X and True Social and things like that. So,
do you see overall in the world? Do you see the right is actually dying, so to speak?
dying? No,
Yeah.
I think they're thriving. I think
Sorry,
the
not the right, the left.
Oh,
the
the
left.
left.
Yeah, the
Oh.
left is dying.
I feel
think-
like people are waking up.
The
So-
Democrats went too far left.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
They went too far.
Nobody
Yeah.
really
I-
agreed with
And everything
men
they
and
stand
women's
for is-
sports.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Let's be honest, and I think that like things are getting so like ridiculous now that like even people who aren't even like conservative are literally sitting and saying, okay, like this is silly, like this, like these are touchy topics, but it's like a man is not a woman. Like people are really getting down to like the nitty gritty of it, and they're realizing that this is ridiculous.
They went too far left. And
Yeah.
that's where they messed up. That was the biggest strategy flaw that they had.
Like I think, sorry to cut you off,
Yeah.
but there was this one clip that I watched, and it was this transgender woman, and she's basically just talking about how like this was a scam. Like there's they you go to mental health, you go to a psychologist, they tell you, yep, you are this, that. You need to go to a doctor, you need to start transitioning right away. You start transitioning, you're a young, impressionable kid under the age of 18, you cut off some stuff, you do some irreversible gender affirm, I don't know what it's called, but like the
Gender affirmation. Yeah.
you know,
what
you
you're
take
talking
the
about,
hormones, and they say when you catch it before puberty, you know, it's better, but it's like it's actually irreversible. And it's like it was a transgender woman speaking, and she was like, I'm messed up. I take this many pills a day. If I don't take these pills, I could die. I have a viral infection that hits me every other month, and if I don't get rushed to the hospital, I could die. I will never be the same. I will like she. It's coming
Well,
from their
You know who's
side.
a good example of this?
Who?
It's so sad to say. When I seen this, have you seen this clip of Elon Musk? He talks. One of Elon Musk's sons went through that process.
Really?
Yes. And
didn't know that.
he went on a podcast with Jordan Peterson. Mm-hmm. It was the most gangster clip that I've freaking seen. But he went on a podcast with Jordan Peterson. He basically said that him and his son got tricked into his son taking puberty blockers because they say it'll prevent, like, if your son is, like, if they sense that there's some mental illness or like they could be suicidal, they'll say they need to do this in order to prevent that. But it's puberty blockers, basically the same things that allow kids to transition. And then he said he never realized like they got tricked until after the fact. You know what this guy says? He's like, now my entire mission is to defeat the woke mind virus. And then he pauses, and then he was like, and we're making progress. Straight face. I'm like, freaking gangster.
That's actually crazy though. Elon Musk's son.
Yes.
Like this is somebody who's wealthy,
Yes.
who has wow.
Yeah, so you really realize no matter how much you have, like people still fight battles and demons and fight darkness. But then you look at the other side, it's like, you see all the stuff that he's doing now in office with Trump, how he's trying to take down the deep state.
Oh, did you hear that? Trump appointed Elon Musk and Vivek for
the Department of Government Efficiencies.
Yeah,
but
dog.
Doge.
Doge.
And
he was
but
the one
they
that
put like a dog emoji right next.
Yeah,
to
because
it.
it's Dogecoin. It's a troll.
Yeah, so it's like it was a crypto that he pretty much boosted back during COVID. So it just comes full circle. I was talking about in my story. It just came full circle that his actual government position, the acronym is Doge, when that was the coin that he was promoting back in 2021. But when you look at all the stuff that he's doing, it's like, why is it, you're worth $300 billion? Why are you doing this? Why are you trying to become the most hated man? Why are you trying to take down the deep state? Why are you literally fighting the most powerful force there is to fight? Well, the most powerful force literally, he literally says his son died from the woke mind virus.
Died.
So
like
I don't think he's
that was his words. Of course, it doesn't mean literal, but that was pretty much his words, and that's his mission now.
Because I don't think he's one of those guys who's sitting back on this couch and thinking, how can I make my next 200 billion? I don't think he gives a shit about that.
He said his mission right now is to destroy the woke mind virus, and that's why he's doing everything.
I think multi-planetary species traveling to Mars.
Yeah.
That's just like
You guys believe in space?
Believe in space? Are you a flat Earth theorist?
You guys believe in space?
I do. I mean, not believe, like, you know.
So you believe we made it to the moon?
Yes.
I don't know. This one, I don't even know if I really have.
So you don't?
I don't know.
No.
Oh man, this is interesting.
No.
So tell me your rationale.
I don't. When you look at it,
You think it's a whole propaganda, like?
yeah. Because this is around the pandemic when we all had a lot of time on our hands, right?
What, moon? No, you got into it.
Yes, like I went down the rabbit hole, and it's like there were certain things that it's opposite. For example, okay, boom. Okay, number one. Okay, I'm gonna go from biblical, and then I'm gonna go from like physical things that are actually real. Okay, so I'm Christian, so I actually do believe in a lot of biblical things. And there's this story in the Bible where there's this like huge like ladder or mountain that the people on earth created, and they wanted to get closer to God. And so they made this ladder where it was so high, they actually got close to heaven to the point where God actually bashed them down. And that's why we all speak different languages. And I truly believe that we cannot get out of the firmament, is what they call it. It's a firmament. Have you ever heard of the firmament?
No, so they're talking about the atmosphere, basically.
Yeah, I guess the ozone layer is what they call it.
Right.
But there's a firmament that God created, and it's like to separate the heavens from the earth, and we are unable. That's number one. Number two, you think
So
of
one is stemming from the Bible.
yes.
Okay.
Another one is there's this there's the longest river in planet Earth. It's called the Nile River. Okay, the Nile River. I don't know how many kilometers. I don't know the logistics. It's been a while, but it's so long where they actually describe that if this is the longest river on planet Earth, and the Earth is round, at some point the river has to start curving. It's gonna curve and like I don't know, like I'm not a science math girl, right? But at some point the river is gonna start curving because it has to take the circumference of the earth.
Right.
The river never curves. It never curves.
You've been on a flight, right?
Yes.
So when you fly up, right? When you
Yes.
take off and you look down,
Okay.
don't you see the curvature of the Earth being like round?
No.
You don't.
You
see
see
it
the
as flat?
curvature of the earth?
Yeah, when you're up there, you see the land just a bit rounded.
I don't know.
Sort of.
Maybe I never I don't know. Maybe I never
Bit,
noticed.
yeah.
But there
Or if you go to like a desert or something, you would
Yeah.
see it kind of like rounding, or to like a beach, you would see it rounding off at the edges.
maybe I don't know. My last point is there was these basically when they went onto Earth and whatever Armstrong made it to the moon, they were saying how there was like these like fake cameras that were basically caught because it was like there's a way to make it seem like you're in zero gravity and there's certain cameras that you can use to show the angles, and they were like they basically debunked it, and they were like, why would you have to fake it?
But at this point, okay, so you also realize it's not just states who has access to space, right?
Yeah,
There's
it's,
India sending people to moon.
Is
Like-
there?
Yeah, not people to moon. They have sent a satellite to moon. They have collected data from moon. There's China. There's Russia. They have an international space station up there. At this point, it's different countries. Unless all these countries are sitting together and trying to control all the people, which I think is highly unlikely.
I don't believe we made it out.
You don't?
This Mars mission? No. I heard that, I don't know if it was you who was telling me or if it was my teacher, but he was like, apparently, like, we're going to hit a point where Mars is, I think it was you, where it's closest to the Earth.
No, that wasn't me.
Oh, it might have been my acting coach. He was like, we're hitting a point where Mars is going to be the closest it's ever going to be to Earth in like a couple years or so. And like, that's when Elon is planning to go. And what they want to do is it's supposed to take, I think, 9 months at like certain speed to get to Mars, but he's going to try to do it in 3 months. And when it hits, they're going to create something that's going to be quick enough and pretty much, yeah, they're going to try to make it to Mars, but you can't make it out of here. You can't. There's a firmament, and you believe in the Bible. So if you believe in the Bible, you have to believe in the firmament. I do not believe that we made it out.
The only reason like I wouldn't believe it is because like it's hard to believe like anything you see online. I don't know. That's just me personally. Like I'd have to actually see it for myself. That's the best I could say.
The thing is like different context, right? It's like, for instance, like I look up the Bible for like values, principles, and things like that.
Okay.
But when it comes to science, I look at science.
Do you?
Indifferently, yeah. I feel like Jesus Christ was the best influencer who
Influencer?
yeah, he was the best influencer.
I kind of like that title.
He got the best reach. His reach stood out for like imagine like you're so famous, like Benita is like used to be so famous, you became so wise, your principles were written down in a book, and for the next 2,000 years your principles withstood. That's Jesus Christ, who is the biggest
And
influencer.
if you
who
look
is.
at it, I mean,
Okay.
like
Yeah.
translation to modern.
I'm
day,
Christian, I'm Catholic, right?
Are you?
Yeah, I am.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Sick,
so
sick.
I go to church, but it's hard to find like great priest
Yeah.
these days. It's kind of like
Yeah.
but
And it's just very parallel too, because
I'm glad
mean-
I was raised it,
Yeah.
because I learned a lot of values as I was
Is
raised
that the
it.
religion in India, though? That's not...
No, there's all kinds of religion. It's
Okay.
diverse, right? So there's Hinduism, there's Christianity, there's
Sikhism.
Sikhism, Muslim. But I'm glad because I went to Sunday school for like 12 years. I learned a lot of values. But as I get older, I really like it. I'm probably, if I have kids, I'm probably going to raise some Christians as well, just for them to have that inherent value. But at the same time, I don't believe word by word blindly, because that takes away so much from experience in my life, I feel like.
That's interesting, but it's like no, because it's like the Bible to me has like all the answers to a lot of things, and like as much as we can sit here and say yes, science is real, yes, science does answer a lot of our questions. There's still a lot of things that science can't answer, and there's a lot of things that like that is in like in this world that we cannot explain, like the pyramids. Describe how were the pyramids made?
Interesting. Now, here's my take on it. My take on it is Jesus Christ actually ran away when he was a kid, and he came back when he was 30. And around 30, he became wise.
What do you mean by ran away? Like he kind of like was
Like there's that period where nobody knows about.
Right.
Right? I think I'm in that period. If I come back to it, great. But for now, I'm just gonna accept all the ideas and like just explore myself. Yeah.
Just doing side missions.
Yeah.
Side quests.
Yeah, there's a story he met Buddha in like India, and then he came to the conclusions, right? So I think we have to do that exploration piece first,
Yeah.
and then conclude.
Okay, fair.
Like it's almost like okay, this is the truth, but like do an A/B testing, or do a test which contradicts this, and if you're wrong, that means this is right. You would come back.
The thing is like the parables are so applicable to
They're
the
so
modern day.
applicable.
It's actually it's scary. It's scary, like for lack of better emphasis. But like even is it in Matthew when even Satan brings him to the top of the kingdom and said this will all be yours if you pretty much just worship me and something like that. I mean, if we look at like you could apply that to Hollywood, you know what I mean? Like they'll give you, when certain people, celebrities, quote unquote, sell their soul for a bag. It's like they literally show you can have the fame, the fortune, if you just sign this contract and you gotta abide by what we do. But then if you're
there's that verse, Mark. It's on my phone. 8:36.
It's Mark, right?
It's in Matthew, but I like the way they
yeah.
said it in Mark. It's like, what does it benefit a man to gain the whole world but to lose his own soul? Yeah.
Exactly. So even just that, and then the whole, with the Pharisees as well. I mean, like Jesus was out there speaking truth to the people and try to wake the people up. So now, and the Pharisees, first they tried throwing him in jail, and then they hung him on the cross and killed him, right? Or they tried to. But if you look at it today, if you even try doing the same thing where you're speaking the truth against what the overall narrative and agenda is, like they're gonna try to come after you, and they're gonna try to silence you. Exactly, Andrew Tate, Trump.
But don't you think it has gotten better considerably? Like, okay, imagine it was 20 years before, and the only source of information you had was traditional media. Right. You had this radical idea, and you started putting it out there. Someone could come kill you, and nobody would know. But at this time, with social media and everything, you're kind of sort of protected.
Yeah,
you are. But
I would say so.
To a certain extent, I mean, like not fully, but I think it's getting there, which is
because you have leverage as an individual citizen right now. You don't have to, like, for instance, if you went across, I mean, like, as long as it's not illegal, you're not committing some sort of, espionage against your country, right? You're not leaking some information which could potentially endanger citizens of your country. You're saying something out loud, some sort of like whistleblowing. You put it out there. You're sort of protected because if something happens to you, people automatically look in that direction.
Because if you think about it, what do you think would happen if they killed Trump? Or if they killed Andrew Tate, people would be like, "Oh, so he was the truth," and it would, if anything, it would just amplify him and make him more, like powerful in his message.
That's why, when, the assassination attempt that happened on Trump, just made him even more powerful.
Yeah.
Because
do you think that was real though? Sorry, I gotta go off on a tangent on that one.
Yeah.
Did you hear the conspiracies about that?
I mean, like everyone would have their doubts, right? Like when you see it, it's too close to like, just a great movie story.
Yeah, everyone's like it was fabricated to make him like it's all a part of like to make him more liked.
But every single person tells it's so hard to perfect a shot just to kind of like nick his ears and just not do anything.
For the snipers?
Too. And somebody died as well. Like
somebody died?
Yes.
Yeah, two people.
People died. I think two people.
The ones who were standing behind him.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. People actually died.
The shot hit people. Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying.
And it's so hard to hit someone in that angle. Like, what if he just turned his head? He'd be like shot dead.
It's
no way.
There's too many.
I didn't know people died.
Yeah, they did.
I thought they just killed the people
one guy died for
did
sure.
it. Oh my god.
Yeah, like civilians, like innocent people.
One guy who was standing behind him, definitely, yeah.
But the thing is, then there's the other side. Then there's the other side
That's
to me where I've seen these documentaries, and it's okay. So even from 48 Laws of Power, they always tell a story about P.T. Barnum. P.T. Barnum gained his power just from being a great showman. Like he deceived the public, and his perception on the public was just completely calculated, and he was really intentional about his public image, and he always did these crazy, controversial, these publicity stunts in order to just increase his
But
influence.
it's very hard to sustain these days. You know why? Okay, so Elon Musk talks about it, and what's the other guy's name? Edward Norton, the guy who's got exterminated from U.S. He's living in States because he leaked some information in 2013. WikiLeaks.
Oh, we're talking about
Edward Norton, I think his name.
now wasn't it
Edward Snowden or maybe
Julian Assange? Are you
no
talking about-
Edward Snowden. He was the guy who came out.
Okay, Julian Assange was the one that found it. He created WikiLeaks.
Yes.
But same thing happened to him. He got put in prison too.
No, this guy's not in prison. He's actually in
Okay.
Russia because they're not offering him a fair trial in States, so he just stays in Russia, right? So, sorry, I was saying, sorry, where were we at, topic wise?
Well, I was just talking about complete controlling your public image and things of that nature.
Yeah. So what these guys talk about it is okay. So you can absolutely put forward an image of yourself and make people believe this is who you are. When you're going out there and like giving people 15-minute speeches or like even a 45-minute interview at a traditional media, but you go on Joe Rogan or any of these podcasts and sit there for 3 hours, after 2 hours, the real you is going to come out.
Isn't that
That's also why
Kamala
I
only
don't
did
think
an hour, right?
Yeah,
No,
Or
yeah,
wanted
Kamala.
to.
So Kamala reached out to Joe Rogan and she wanted to do a podcast, but then she put a constraint. It has to be under 45 minutes. It has to be at her place,
Yeah.
not at his place. And he said, "Fuck no."
Yeah, fuck
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
That's
it really
so-
just shows, but like to your point, and that's why I don't believe it was a publicity stunt because he was just able to keep up the act for this long. It's like there's no way. Like one publicity stunt, fine. Like you can fabricate that, but to keep and he's done hundreds of hours of podcasts since, and so
Trump, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And so to actually keep up the narrative, I mean, either he's just a freaking wizard and
Yeah.
genius, or like it actually freaking happened. And
Some of the stuff he say is also like people say like he doesn't give specifics. He doesn't really give any solutions. But
The
to be
weave.
honest, he does.
yeah, he does.
He talks about like how he can prevent Russia and Ukraine. He talks about that, but he also talked about how he prevented Israel and Palestine war back in the day. So what he ended up doing is he had bans in Iran. So Iran was not able to trade its oil. So Iran remained poor. So
Yep.
Palestine didn't have, or Hamas didn't have the money to fund the war against Israel. As soon as Biden administration came, these things were relieved. Iran started making a shit ton of money from the oil. And then what ended up happening is Iran had the money to fund Hamas, and then the war started. So it's not necessarily them having a three-way conversation. It's about doing these kind of strategies geopolitically
That's crazy.
to prevent things from happening.
I didn't know that.
That's why,
Yeah.
foreign policy is super important. Like the tariffs, so the taxes on trade, so import, export, like having those specific negotiations and those deals in place. That's what stops the wars. Because if you defund, like you said,
Yeah.
all these other governments and these countries, then yeah, like they won't. And when he talks about,
They
you know,
can't go to war.
what does he say? Zelensky. Is it Zelensky that he says just comes to the U.S. and just makes billions? Like those are the type of things that he's talking about. So, yeah, and so he's exactly what you said is
Yeah, another one he said about is like, for instance, a lot of manufacturing in US is going away to China, right? A lot of entrepreneurs in US decides, like including Apple, say we're going to manufacture our product in China. Their economy gets booming, but then they end up selling these products to US. So US economy just becomes consumers. They continuously go on deficit. So what he's going to do is he's going to say something along the lines of, if the product is manufactured outside US, for the product to enter the US market, you will have to pay 100% tariff. So you will have to pay, if the product is $100, you're going to pay $200 to sell it in US. Now you don't have to worry about it. We're not going to take the tariff away if you bring the production back to US. So that, I don't know how practical it is, but it just makes sense. So then Apple is incentivized to actually build manufacturing unit in States. Now, here's the biggest kicker. The biggest reason why they move away from States is because of the labor cost. Or Canada, it's the labor cost.
No.
Right? In China or in India, the minimum wage for the whole day is $15. Here, you have to pay $15 an hour.
Okay.
Right? So we will have to have a revolution, or like the whole robots and things have to develop in like in very
Oh,
advanced,
boy.
so there's no labor. But that's actually good. You know,
But
it just accelerates.
it still creates more jobs too at the end of the day. Like these are new jobs that are being formed. Like if they say if he says manufacturing needs to happen in the U.S., it's going to create more jobs. So when they say when he says the immigrants are taking all the jobs and whatnot, but and then they complain about the tariffs, or having everything being manufactured in the U.S., it's gonna increase the amount of jobs.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, the staying away from immigration, I feel like, I think, I mean, they also talk about that. Even that, like Trump said, whatever he said made so much more sense. He's not saying no to immigration, he's saying no to illegal immigration. He wants people like Elon Musk to come to the country and be productive and, like, give value to the country.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean, you need to add value to the country. Like it's like
So, right.
if you're coming to my house, like yo, bring some food or something. Bring something
Yeah.
to the table.
Because right now, it's how it works is even Canada. I think the biggest reason is they took in a lot of refugees. All right, so let's understand how refugee program works. Refugee program works when you come to Canada and you say your life is threatened in your home country, so you want refuge in this country, right? They're not necessarily assessing. Okay, did you go to school? What's your degree? What's your diploma? Like they're not doing any of that stuff, right? Now, for those people who are honestly their lives are threatened, it makes sense. But what about the other crowd who's just incentivized to lie that their life is threatened, and they come to countries like Canada and States, and they get paid just because they are refugees from the money paid by the productive people in the country as tax?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Because I'm not really deep in this topic, but is it a refugee's job to contribute to the economy, aka like get a job and stuff when they get here, or are they literally just they're here and they just get paid? Like I don't really know how that works.
They all have some sort of supplements from the government as they enter the country, like accommodation. They would probably have some sort of if there's a family, the government is going to give them some money to basically settle in.
Okay.
Right. But the challenge is, okay, that goes back to our initial conversation. What's your mindset? If you're kind of like a lazy person, you're just going to take advantage of that for the next 20, 30 years.
Oh, and they can live off of that for 30 years?
Yeah, there's multiple things that are actually.
Oh, wow.
I mean, Canada has a lot of stuff. Like, if your wage is under so much, like, you can just. We do have some sort of universal income here.
Yeah.
You could
Universal income?
universal income, as in, like, everyone could get, like, under a certain, you could apply for certain things under disability and, like, all that stuff, where single mom,
Oh, okay,
you
okay.
get paid,
I
right?
see what you mean, okay.
So it's the question is about, like, how are you putting forward policies that actually incentivize people to be productive? Right? Now, here's the reality, like, whether people like it or not, Canada is the second largest country geographically in the world. Number one is Russia, number two is Canada. Now, India is like the 10th largest. So technically speaking, Canada is probably 5 to 6 or 7 times larger than India. India has a population of 1.4 billion people, out of which 800 million are young people. Canada, my state, like my province, it's probably 1/20th of Canada, or it's half the size or less than half of the size of Ontario. Not half, like probably 1/7 of Ontario. My state has a population of 35 million. Canada's population is just 40 million people.
Yeah. We have like a lot of land, but like not as much people occupying the land.
Yeah, and also the breakdown. How many of those people are baby boomers? How many of those people are young? I think a lot of people are older. Because the whole idea in 1970s of, oh, there's too much population, let's cut it down. And then people went from having 5 kids per family to like 1 kid. But you look at all the, I mean, I'm not saying just the refugees, but a lot of refugees have like a lot of kids. And kids get child tax benefit in this country. So they have to think past that. Like, let's forget about that. Like, we need people here. Like Elon Musk talks about it all the time. The whole idea of the world is overpopulated and all that. So that's bullshit. You need more people. You need more young folks out there. Even China started this policy in like late 90s where they said only 1 kid per family, and they were penalized if you have more than 1 kid.
I remember that.
Now, they also have 1.4 billion population, same like India, but most of their population is actually older, non-productive people. What's going to happen to them? What's happening in Japan? The same thing. Most of the population is older. So I think we need both states or Canada. We need immigration. We need people. But like Vivek says, like, the Trump says, they need to be taking in skillful people.
Okay.
So how do you like? It's kind of like a kind of transitioning, still somewhat on the same topic. But how do you feel like Trump gaining office, Trump getting a second term as president? Like, do you feel like that's gonna have a huge shift in the entire world and society and culture and or like what's your opinion? Where do you see the world going after Trump being elected as president?
That's a
I
great
think
question.
big time. I think it's going to help the whole world. It's not just me, my dad, like everyone thinks the same. I think the reason is primarily, we were talking about it, like me and my boys were talking about it. It's about patriotism. Do you give a shit about your country?
Yep.
If your primary objective is actually contribute to my country, make my country better, fundamentally you're going to do a lot of right things, right? And that's the only thing that matters. You don't care about like anything else. So when he sits across Russia, he's going to think about what's in USA's best interest. Let me give you an example, okay? This is not USA, but this is India's. India will soon, if things go right, India will soon become the biggest trader in oil or gas. Now, to put that into perspective, let me give you what's going on here. India doesn't have oil. But India is going to become the largest businessman in oil, surpassing Saudi Arabia. Doesn't that sound crazy?
How so?
That is awesome.
Okay, so let me explain to you. So what India did is, when Russia Ukraine went on war, people put ban on Russians to sell their oil.
Right. The gas went up here.
Yes. When Palestine and Israel had war, people put ban on Iran. Right? India went in and India said, we'd buy your oil. We have refineries. We don't have oil, natural resource. We have refineries. We'll buy your oil. So they bought the oil at a cheaper price because nobody else is buying their oil.
Right.
They refined it and they sold it to the countries who doesn't have oil. So India didn't care about geopolitics. No, India just looked at what's India's best interest. And India is like, actually India's GDP is like booming right now. So the leaders have to like get to a point where they go, oh, we don't give a fuck, man. Like, we just want to look out for our country. We need to get our country to better. That's all that matters. So the guy his name is Jay Shankar, he's like the foreign minister. This BBC News, like, in Britain. These guys go and question him, like, oh, so what's your political stance? Why do you support, like, countries like Russia and this and that? And he goes like, listen, guys, like, what do you think Europe does? Europe preaches all these virtues. They're the biggest virtue signaler. But when it comes to the actual world problem, they don't give a shit. And you think just because we're India, we cannot do the same thing they do?
Yeah.
So, and then he puts the question back to them. So the whole world has become this whole leftist point of view of virtue signaling, left, right, and center. Oh, yeah, the environmentalism, you should stop. You should get away from gas. You should protect the environment. Now, they take the production to China and do the same shit in China, and everything goes up into the air, which actually circulates all over the world. The net impact is zero. They just preach environmentalism. Now, US not only lost the two things. Environmentally, we're fucked. Either here or there, we're fucked because it's the same atmosphere. But the worst part, US economy just lost a shit ton of money because the production moved to China. So the whole virtue signaling thing, it's actually not in the best interest of US. And that's why Trump says, it's important to have that because we're not at a point where we can generate energy with solar or anything else. We have to rely on gas. So that's a difference between someone who's actually looking for the best interest of their country versus trying to have a vanity around virtue signaling.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like running companies in competition, right? Like you gotta be strategic and you gotta worry about your own company before everybody else's.
Yeah.
So how do you feel like Trump will revolutionize society?
I think he's gonna bring a lot more logic back into things that were twisted into being believed as the truth. I've seen a couple clips of like some of the videos he's created of like his new policies already, like I don't know, just like men and women sports, separation. I think everything that was kind of like fed to us as lies and portrayed as normal is finally going to be like back on track. And yeah, I believe in conservative values, and like I feel like that's what's going to keep the household one. Like I don't know if this was an actual policy or if this was just like a Project 2025 thing, but I even saw where it was like they're gonna actually be paying you more money if the men and women stay together. It was something. It was something like that. Have you seen that?
No, but I know the other way around is they're almost incentivized to be single right now.
Yeah, because it's like there was this huge thing, and this is like something that what's his name, Dr. Umar always talks about, and he was like back in like I think the
Especially
80s or
in black
90s.
families, right?
Yes, it was like they would literally tell the man to be out of the household because they would get more benefits if it was a single parent household. And so what happened is you would have a lot of single mothers, and some of it was on purpose, some of it was they didn't get along, but they would do it because it was like, at least I'm going to get more money from the government. And so it's a chain effect. Okay, now the children are being raised on single parents. They're being raised by a woman. Now you don't have strong men. Candace Owens talks about it. You have the single mothers by choice movement, and there's a generation of men who, I'm gonna just say it, they're turning gay. Like they're getting very feminine. She literally says it. They're gay, like, you know.
Do you think they
homos.
should take all the attention they put into Black Lives Matter, defund the police, into something along the lines of this message?
Yeah, like it's,
Encourage having, like,
yeah.
Basically just take
Some
it-
people say it's extreme. Some people are like, oh, like this is messed up. Like, you know, of course it's always going to be circumstantial, but I think at the end of the day, like Trump has the right idea and the right message that our country needs. Because like you just said, you know, LGBTQ wasn't big in India, but now because the West normalized it,
Yes.
it's a chain effect. So it's like America has a huge responsibility because it's the entertainment district. So what happens in America, what slides in America, is what's going to be happening for the rest of the world. And so if he can make America great again, you know,
Yeah.
and like kind of just get it back on track, I think it's necessary.
So what's like, because it's crazy that you say that, because when you look at like 99% of black women in the Western world, they were all for Kamala. Like, you never seen one woman of color actually big up Trump or talk
Really?
about supporting and voting
Apparently
Trump.
she's not even
Maybe
black.
that's your
I
For You
never-
page.
Yeah, maybe, but I never seen one. So like, what? Because,
I know what you're
'cause
saying.
When you look at Kamala, I mean, she could be the first female. Well, I mean, obviously, like, you know, that was in the past, but at the moment, she could be the first woman president. But not only that, a woman president who's also of color, right? So when you look at every other woman of color, like, they're usually supporting Kamala. So like, what was your distinguish between the two? Like, why were you so supportive of Trump over Kamala, considering you're a woman of color?
I think you can't look at things like just black and white. I have like the same mindset as Candace Owens has, as like, you can't just eat what's being fed to you. Like, you know, you have to be able to differentiate like what's propaganda and what's legit, what actually has my best interests at hand, and what is like fake. Like, it's like you look at all like these rappers, they used a lot of black rappers to basically promote Kamala, and it, like, yeah, from the outside looking in, if you know nothing about politics, it would make sense as a black female to vote for Kamala. But I think it goes back to, again, me just having conservative values and just knowing that, like, okay, cool, yeah, it would be nice to support a black woman in office, but let's look back at Obama. They say that Trump did more for black people than Obama ever did. The only thing Obama did was be a black man in office. That's all it was. He couldn't actually help the black people, and there wasn't anything that he did. So it's like, it's
He was
really
pretty
just,
cool though. He was smooth with his lines.
yeah, you know.
Public speaker, yeah.
Yeah, it was good. It was a
He's a
black
great
guy
bro.
in president, but he didn't actually do anything for the community. So I think for me, it was just like, okay, like, what is Trump actually trying to do for the community? And what I learned is, like, he just had the most experience. He's actually somebody who knows how to make those business calls. You know, when it comes to like foreign policies and talking to different countries and just having that experience of knowing what to do. They say there wasn't a single war when Trump was
Yeah.
in office.
Mark Cuban's, I mean, like, I think he quotes Yemen war, but
Yeah.
I don't think it has a lot to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like if you look at it, the country was better run when Trump was in office. So it's like, okay, sure, you could do Kamala, but if you vote for Kamala, you actually have to like watch her videos. And like, trust me, I tried to like her. She can't answer any questions.
No.
She trips up. Anybody who is a endorser of Kamala, if they don't have the teleprompter going, we can look at Cardi B. They choke. So it's like for me, I guess, I don't know, maybe I'm such a conspiracy theorist. I just look into things and I just always say, I remember I said this to one of my friends. I'm like, whoever the world loves, I'm against it. Because if we even bring it back to biblical terms, Jesus said himself, because they hated me first, they will hate you. So whoever is super loved and worshiped and praised in the world, I'm suspicious automatically. Because why does the world love you when the devil supposedly runs this world? And people hate Trump, but it's like if you actually look at the people who are always hated, it's like they're usually hated because they're doing something right. So it's like, yeah, if you don't know anything about politics, just based off of that opinion alone is enough for me to like.
That's why
want
like
Trump.
this election was really, there was a huge pendulum swing from the left to the right, in my opinion. And I remember like even earlier this year, it came out that, you know, even men, specifically young men, are becoming more conservative and young women are becoming more liberal. So there was it started to become a very like pretty impactful disparity.
Let me ask you a
between
question there,
values.
okay? So you remember, like, you've probably heard the story where like Jesus is actually in the cross, and then their lady goes to his feet and cries,
Yeah.
and then Jesus says, shit's about to hit the fan. Don't cry for me. Go home and cry for you and your family. Something along those lines, right?
Yeah.
So basically, he's just saying, go home and like pray for you and your family. Take care of your family. Stop crying. I think the moral lesson there is like stop virtue signaling. Just look at what's in the best interest of you. Like, to become like a better person, like what do you need to do? Don't sign up for ideas like, oh yeah, I'm a straight man, but I'm going to support LGBTQ. So they're like, no, like, what's in the best interest of you? Like, what are the things you should care for your own advancement, not like necessarily signing up for all these things so you have a purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I
it's
see what you're
just
saying.
it's true, and like I feel like just the Trump and his campaign just really doubled down on that because like again, it's crazy that women were becoming far liberal and men were becoming more conservative. And the thing is, and Trump even said in one of his rallies that long time ago, like years ago, one of his early rallies, like 8 years ago or so, that when you're younger, you usually start off as more liberal when you're younger because liberal is usually what's trending. Liberal is kind of like what Benito was saying, what's more loved and what's more accepted. Then conservative values are usually what's not essentially accepted, but are typically better for society. So
And liberal has so much virtues in it.
Yeah.
Liberal is like, rich people are bad, poor people are like, poor people are always taken advantage of. And I feel like when you speak liberal, your voice is heard more.
yeah.
So
Yeah, no, it's true because the entire media machine is typically more
even
liberal.
the movies, like you look at any old movies, right?
Yeah, they're usually
Typically,
left leaning.
the rich guys are bad
Yeah, because Hollywood is more left leaning, more liberal. Right?
everywhere. It's not just Hollywood. That's the funny part. Even when I grew up in my country, like actually my state is ruled by Communist Party. It is actually right.
Yeah, yeah.
So when I grew up, everything these guys did was heroic. These guys would burn down public transit buses, things like that, and we used to cheer for it. But then you start working for yourself, and then you realize how stupid of an ideology it is actually.
It is, and that's why that's why I genuinely believe like Trump is actually shifting, the way we perceive culture. Well, shifting it back to what, again, they always say like him, Tulsi Gabbard, Bobby Kennedy. They're always saying that they're party of common sense. But the thing is, in today's liberal world, common sense is now looked at as an extreme far right ideology when essentially it is
Yeah.
common sense. But they try to demonize it as saying that it's very far right conspiracy theories, ideologies, and whatnot. But again, like what I was saying about men becoming more conservative. I think Trump getting in office, it was really amplifying, what's conservative masculinity because that's what they really doubled down on. Because when I look and it comes to a point, it's like, you could tell, at least as a man, I don't know if women do this too, but I could tell if I'm on the street, I could tell, like if I'm looking at what's supposed to be a male, okay, a biological male. See, the fact that we don't even have to specify, but
Yeah.
if I see a biological male, off the bat, I can tell if you're supporting Kamala or Trump. The reason why I can tell is I can judge how masculine you are. But if you're typically more feminine, I know you're supporting Kamala. If you're more masculine, like you're in shape, you know, you speak with authority, you're confident, you're competent, you're smart, educated, I know you're most likely supporting Trump. And if you say you're not,
Facts.
I won't believe you.
As a masculine man, how are you supporting Kamala? Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. How are you supporting Kamala as what you're supposed to be a man? So my point being is, I
And
think,
the minute they open them out, like you can sense like virtue signaling.
sorry,
most of the time,
yeah,
right?
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
So I think Trump,
These are the two traits they have in common: virtue signaling and gaslighting. A lot of times.
yeah, that's all they run on. But I think so. Trump's campaign really targeted their target audience. I feel like we're young masculine men. So I think him getting in office was really good leadership, and him and allows him to be a good role model for younger men. Like, this is, I mean, again, it's supposed to be common sense, but this is what a leader does. A leader, you know, really stands on business, stays true to his morals and values and principles. He works hard and just stands on business. Like I said, you know, barely sleeps, you know, and tries to actually do what's best for the people around him. In his case, the world, essentially, pretty much, and especially his own country. And then he essentially puts himself last, right? And so I think those are some standards and morals and principles and a foundation of what makes a man a good man.
Now, I'd like to hear both of your take on this, okay? Because I've heard this from someone. It was around the lines of, there's no need for left because left was typically for the labor, and there's no need for labor anymore.
Like the left
Left party was like sort of like formed to basically hold their labor rights. So to put things into perspective, like back in the day when the monarchy was like shred down to democracy, the right wing was someone who would represent all the affluent people, the king and all those people, and the left would be the ones who represent the people, right?
Okay.
The people who used to work and all that stuff. So let's say labor, right? Like labor unions and labor, right? So there's this new argument that the reason left is failing dramatically is because there is no need for left as a civilization anymore. Because we don't have, that group of people is actually going down.
Well, I don't think the left really just stands on labor and working class and things of that nature. It's much more complex than that now. Like, left is now feminism, LGBT.
Now, right?
Yeah, that's
but like what I'm
modern-day
saying,
liberalism.
traditional ideology.
Yeah, but I think everything changes. Like, even just the idea of feminism has changed over time. Once upon a time, feminism just meant that women get more rights.
Yeah.
And women actually have the right to do a lot of things that men are typically only allowed to do. So women just got more rights. That was what was originally feminism. Now feminism is women completely going far past that, saying they don't even need men no more.
Yeah, the definition has
Right?
definitely changed.
It has
yeah.
changed. So now it's not even about having equal rights as men. It's that not only do I have equal rights as men, but I don't even need a man no
Yeah.
more because I have all these rights and capabilities and accessibility and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, what do you
Yeah,
what's
so,
your take on
so
feminism?
Benita, like, by the way, I
Feminism?
also answer that other question as well. Would you cook? Would you stay at home and cook?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right?
that. I would absolutely be a housewife.
Yeah.
That's if I could get there, I've made it.
So
I'd love to.
Like, how do you guys think one becomes a housewife?
You find a man that makes enough money to make you a housewife.
How do you find a man that makes enough money to be
You
a
put
housewife?
yourself in a position. I definitely think you have to be around certain people, and I think a very, very recent belief that I've had now is that, like, usually those types of men, not that I shouldn't say attracted, but you're usually in the spaces that you can find those men if you, I'm not saying making that same amount of money, but just like interested in the same things, if that makes sense. It's like when a doctor ends up falling in love with one of the nurses in the hospital. Like, you're kind of like in that same area, if you know what I mean. But yeah,
So you put yourself in that environment and you find someone.
pretty much. And like, I feel like there's only two ways. Like, I'll even give an example. The other day I was at a charity event and there was like a lot of like finance people and like, I was just serving, but it was like these people were putting down, like, I think that day alone, like $600,000 was raised. It was like a poker event. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, so these people clearly have money.
It's a perfect spot.
You know what I'm saying? Any more caviar, sir? Like, yeah. No, but it was like, you're either in that room because you are also playing poker. There was a lot of women there. You were also playing poker. You're also in the bank and finance and stuff, and you ran into a man there, or like someone kind of in my position where it's like I'm just kind of serving. I'm still coming up. I'm still young, but it's like, yeah, you're either on either side of the coin. It's like Georgina and Cristiano Ronaldo. Do you know the story of how they met?
No.
So Cristiano Ronaldo found his girlfriend.
His wife.
They're not married.
Oh no.
No.
Damn.
It's a
Yeah.
perfect setup for Cristiano.
Yeah. She was working at like Gucci in like, I don't know, Madrid or I don't know, somewhere. And he comes across this girl, thinks she's beautiful, literally picks her up, and now they're like raising a family together. And she's literally stupid rich. She has a whole show on Netflix now. I was actually watching it yesterday. And she didn't have to do anything. Like, it's not like she had to be a huge businesswoman module. She wasn't even a model. Like, his last girlfriend was a model. So, okay, fine. Again, that kind of goes back to the saying that you have to be in that kind of world to be found by a man like that. But I also do believe, I mean, although it is rare, you could just be in the Gucci store. I mean, if she was working at, I don't know, Children's Place or like something that wasn't as high end, she probably wouldn't have ran into him. But just the fact that she sort of put herself in a position, yeah, made her a housewife. But I would arguably say that, like, just even saying the word be submissive, like, triggers some women. And I'll be honest, I can admit and say that used to trigger me too, because it was like, what do you mean submit and you tell me what to do? What is this? Like, but it's like it liberalism, like it taught me to believe that I shouldn't need a man and that he shouldn't be telling me what to do. But I realized from experience, I would rather be with a man who is more masculine and is more in that leadership role than being on the other side. Because you know my ex, and you know that was not a fun experience. I don't believe that us women are meant to carry the weight of playing both roles or even just being masculine. Because the thing is with
Or
feminism...
you don't want to be a mother either.
No, I'd love to be a mother.
No, as in like mother for the boyfriend.
No,
Mother for
oh,
the
yeah. No, but yeah, because it's like I find that like when you are in the feminism role, it's like you are naturally more masculine. And what happens is when you're naturally more masculine, you will attract a feminine guy. And I think that's what the elites actually want. They want a society of weaker men, and they want women to feel like they're the boss and they're the CEOs. And that's why we have a generation of men who they really have to make a decision. You come across a very masculine woman. Do you try to out alpha her, which is usually what they don't want? They usually will find a more feminine woman. Or are you going to approach her and realize that she's too too masculine, so you get turned off or go the other way? Or like some men these days, they like the girl so much, they'll make themselves submissive or they'll make themselves feminine. Because it's like, okay, like I just want to get along with her and yin and yang, right? In order for us to coexist, somebody's got to be masculine, somebody's got to be feminine. So I'm willing to lower myself to be feminine. And I've been in those relationships, you know, I fell for it, and I've been in those relationships and it never works out. The weight, the stress, the trying to lead, I used to pay for date. Like, I will never go back to a man like that. And that's why I'm so big on hypergamy. Like, I need a guy that is doing better than me. I'm not afraid of a guy that knows more than me. I prefer that because I do believe that that is how God created the family structure to be. And as soon as you go the other way, that's where you get to a point of malfunction. I feel like the easiest way is to describe it in an example. I think Andrew Tate said this, and he was like, women can't fly planes. And I, like, as a woman, like, most women will be offended by that. But, like, I don't even like to come from an offensive standpoint.
But is that actually true?
Well, like, it's like a joke. Like, he's always like, oh, women, like, I would never feel comfortable if a woman was flying a plane.
There's some truth to it, though. I think there's some validity.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of women pilots.
Yeah.
Nor would you... I argue you wouldn't want to see many, to be honest.
Yeah, and it goes back to the fact, because I look at the root idea of what he's trying to say. He's basically saying, in the face of danger, our natural human instincts as women is to hide. If the plane's going down, shit hits the fan, and it's up to her, who, I'm gonna be honest, if do I want a man in that pilot seat or do I want a woman? I'm gonna say a man.
Well,
Because a man will see danger and will run through it. As a woman, I'm naturally, where's my dad?
well, yeah,
Where's my
let's
boyfriend?
look at like
Handle that.
a very easy.
You should do a course on that.
A coach on that? Yeah.
Course on that, you know?
Right?
Yeah.
Well, let's look at it like a very,
Right man on demand.
Yeah.
so a good example is when Trump almost got assassinated the first time.
Mm-hmm.
You see all the Secret Service agents all around him and whatnot. When shots are firing
Yeah.
off, there's a picture of all the men surrounding Trump,
No
and
way.
then you see the one woman Secret Service agent hiding behind the podium,
Yeah.
with her head covered, trying to dodge bullets.
It's
like
instincts.
like that's exactly what it is. It's just instinct. So like you want men that, like, in the face of adversity and danger, like you said, their first instinct is to protect the people that they're in charge of protecting.
Yeah.
So that's what it is.
I think women have that instinct when it comes to protecting the kids, though.
Yeah.
yeah,
right?
exactly.
I would arguably
like
say.
like
You would protect the kid better than, like, not better, but like in a sense, like, you know, you would be like very mindful of, like, you know, how to take care of your kid if the kid is gonna, like, you know, if the kid is in some sort of danger,
Yeah.
you would be able to sense that.
Well,
Right?
it goes back to, like, it's like the easy comparison. I
Yeah.
mean, like you were talking about how typically we wouldn't want to have a woman flying our planes and, you know, taking care of our flights, of us going in the air through whatever can happen, turbulence, storms, things of that nature. But same thing when it comes to daycares. We wouldn't want to be dropping our kids off at all men's daycare. Like,
Oh,
who would
yeah,
actually,
Daddy
wanna do
daycare.
You'll be playing
Yeah, I
WWE.
mean, yeah, daddy,
Literally.
kids.
I mean, if they're Kamala supporters, maybe it could work out,
Get
because you still
outta
have, you know, that nurturing, caring environment. But no, it's the same thing. Like, you wouldn't want to drop off your kids on all men's daycare. Typically, you'd want it to be all women. So it's like, biologically, we have things that, you know, we're just set and meant to do.
Would you like your wife to be housewife?
Yeah, most definitely.
But
Yeah.
here's the question that I had for you earlier.
Okay.
Like, considering how your mindset has changed, like, how would you say your mindset has changed from when you were younger as opposed to now? Because you did used to say, you know, you want an entrepreneur woman, you want someone who's a little bit of a hustler, someone who can match your hustle kind of thing. And then we were in the car and you kind of said, like that's changed and you wouldn't mind a house. What, like, yeah, how would you say your mindset has changed, and what do you think changed that?
Yeah, I'm not. By the way, I'm not opposed to having, like, a wife as an entrepreneur, business hustler, and stuff like that. Like, I actually admire it. But, like, of course, you know, being as a woman being in that space, it is hard to, you know, separate the femininity and the masculinity traits, because you have to have both, right? You understand this, and it could be hard. Now, of course, it's doable. There's a lot of Candace Owens is a perfect example. The Dana Chanel is a good example of that. But it is difficult, and it's very rare that a woman can actually be successful at both. Now, aside from that, you know, you put that aside, it's like what I was saying in one of Trump's early rallies, like, years ago, when he said, you know, naturally men, when they're younger, they're more liberal. When they grow up, they become more conservative as they get older. So now that I feel like just throughout the last, like, I would say maybe I would say probably for 4 years, of just becoming getting more conservative. It's like now I really see those conservative values when it comes to family. Before, I was just looking at a relationship. I wasn't thinking about kids, family, things of that nature. But, like, I genuinely want to be able to give my kids, like, the best opportunities. I don't want my kids to have to be raised in a daycare, right? Where I'm not raising them. Because if you think about the traditional way that a family is raised, especially kids, they go to school from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Then
Yeah.
they go to daycare from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. or
I
whatever
work
it
in a
is by the time-
daycare. Some of these
You get what I'm
parents
saying?
don't pick their kids up till 6 o'clock, man. I'm like,
That's what I'm saying. So
I'm
you're-
raising them.
Yeah, so
They
Now
see
the
me
benefit-
more than you.
Now the benefit of if them being a hustler is when they come and, like, you know, you have a marriage, they kind of will have an appreciation for what you're doing because they have walked that walk. But it's also a question about, okay, are you going to be comfortable protecting this person from all the hustles that you've done. Because if the other person just walks right into it, for instance, like Georgina,
Okay.
right? She probably doesn't know, like, what kind of hardship Ronaldo went through to get. I mean, she wouldn't be able to relate it to the core.
So,
So-
but does she need to?
That's up to the men. Is
Yeah.
the
So
ma-
what do you prefer?
So is the man going to be comfortable knowing the fact that they wouldn't fully understand what you have went through, or are you going to be comfortable, like, them not really?
What do you prefer? Like, would you want a woman that is a hustler, or are you okay with just, okay, you know what, I provide, I found everything, I'm so successful to the point where you don't even have to work, I'll take care of you. You take care of
If
me.
I'm being 100% honest,
Let's hear it.
I have zero clue.
Okay,
So, for
still
instance,
figuring it out.
Yeah, still figuring it out. So, last December, the girls that I'm seeing now, the story behind it is last December I was out for an office party.
Yeah.
She was just doing, she was reading, the karaoke, like where she sings off like the screen.
Yeah.
She was doing that. I didn't even see her face. My buddy challenged me, go ask her out.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and asked her out, right? Then we see every couple months, right? But then, for instance, like when I'm with her, right? Like, for instance, when we are in bed or anything, like when things are over and then when she sleeps on my chest, I just ask myself, like, what am I doing here? Because there's no intellectual connection. There's nothing there,
Really?
So I'm like,
And wait, this is the one that's in business, or this is the girl that just doesn't?
no, she does her own business,
Okay.
but like we're not dating. We're just like seeing each other at this point, right? And she's super chill, like I'm super chill, but like but when you get to a marriage, I mean, like when you get to thinking about like someone for your life partner, like someone who's going to be with you forever.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have to get to a point because I don't want to be that guy who has a wife and he does fool around it. I don't want to be that guy.
Okay.
If I'm signing up for marriage, it's with the sole purpose of building a beautiful family around it. Mm-hmm. That's my sole purpose. And for me to have a beautiful family, I have to uphold like the commitment that I have for my wife.
Yes.
So for me, it's not absolute that I'm going to be married. It's about, like, at this stage in my life, I don't even think about it. That's not one of my priorities. But if it happens, then I would only proceed that relationship into a marriage if I feel like, all right, I can do this for the long haul.
Okay.
I feel like I can be committed with this woman for the rest of my life.
Okay.
I can make her life better and she can make my life better. And
I think like the
So you're
perfect-
50-50?
50-50 as in,
Like, are you a 50-50 guy?
what does that mean?
Like you go out, or like, would you want her to split the bills?
No, I want to be 100% provider.
Okay,
There's no question
okay,
about that.
okay.
I was saying more about like if I'm going to do marriage or not. That's the question mark that
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. If it happens, it happens. That's my take on it.
Okay.
I'm not like, that's also part of my goals in life. That's not a part of a huge goal.
Okay.
If it happens, great. I'd love it. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen.
Okay.
But if I get married, then I want to be the sole provider. Yes.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
What were you gonna
So,
say?
honestly, it wasn't even important. So I know, like, we got to wrap things up. But
Yeah.
is there any last topics you guys want to?
Yeah.
Any last questions?
Where did we start?
We started on relationships.
Yeah, we ended on relationships. That's a perfect
Pretty
loop.
cool.
What are some? There was a 1-2 topic, but I'm like, I don't know if you guys are gonna know. So no, I think
What?
I'm good. So there was a 1-2 topic I was thinking, but I'm like, I'm not sure if like you guys know about like these things. So maybe we'll save it for another time.
I know everything is fine.
Yeah. Anything
You know
else?
about the book of Enoch?
Which one? I played.
Yeah, it's I was gonna
That's
go into
funny.
that because I've been into that lately, but
I mean, yeah. If I mean, I'm cool. I'm cool. To,
yeah. Do you guys have any
wrap it up.
last minute questions?
What are some of the
topics?
things that you guys are working on right now?
Go ahead.
Right now,
And how's
I'm getting-
by the way, like the hair?
the hair and beauty. Yeah,
yeah.
we're getting ready for Black Friday sale. So
Nice.
hit up softlifewigs.com if you guys wanna get a new unit. And then I like to take things one at a time. So I don't want to do the ebook and like the hair at the same time. I'm gonna try to blow that up, get the car moving with the hair, and then start like advertising my ebook, which is how to like blow up your social media, how to become an influencer, how to go viral. Yeah.
And, let,
then
me, and let me
acting.
ask you a question on that note, okay? If you get to a point where you get that fuck you money, right?
Yeah.
Where you don't have to do anything for money
Yeah.
at this point, and you just want to commit to a purpose, a mission. what would be that mission? Just one mission.
Wow, that's such a
I
great
love that
question.
question.
Yeah. The Great Commission. Like, especially yesterday's sermon when we went to church, I think that's would be my focus. I think that's always been my ultimate goal of like just bringing more people to Christ. Like that would be my ultimate goal. I feel like as
Interesting.
a woman of God, that's like our purpose. And that's why it's like I'm interested in the acting industry. I remember when I was younger, I used to ask myself, why do I want to go into this industry when it's considered so dark and evil? But like I think that like we're called to go into every industry. We can't just say, "Oh, the entertainment industry is for the devil, so no one go into there." No, the Bible calls us to go into the world. So I think that like for
Rescue
me,
ship Christians.
yeah, rescue ship like
That's
this.
what's
Yeah.
up.
So I think for me it would be like, okay, like I would kind of take like an Andrew Tate kind of approach, where it's like I don't know if you know, we talk about this all the time, where he uses the laws of power. It's like I would come up almost in like a like I'm not gonna say I'm gonna hide my faith, but I know that sometimes that can scare people. People put a label on you, oh, you're the religious girl. So I would, if anything, kind of just like be myself, be who I am, kind of put like a Cat Williams, be in the right places. And then once I do have that power and influence, when people ask me what my secret is, I would be like, the Lord.
Jesus. Interesting.
No, that's good. That's what Kanye did too.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he had to get into the industry, he had to get himself to a certain level, a certain point of influence, and then he was like, "No, like everything you guys see here is Christ. Everything you see here is Jesus Christ. Like,
Yeah.
don't believe anything else. I'm telling you, this is all God." So
So for you, right? So what are some of the things you're working on? And if you get fuck you money, what would be your mission?
yeah, I mean, shoot, right now I'm just like the last month and a half of 2024 is super important. That's one thing that I say every single year is New Year's resolutions doesn't start on January 1st of the new year. It starts in the last in Q4, the last quarter of the prior year. That's so we're hustling, but again, it's really just like to our previous conversation as well, just really trying to be ahead of the curve when it comes to AI. And so far, I'm doing a really good job of that. I'm using AI to actually build investment funds. So that's, yeah, so my own personal investment funds that ideally I wanted to be able to bring a much better return than traditional funds that you see. And to kind of give like a snippet, because I don't want to give away too much, you know?
For sure. Yeah.
So the first fund that I'm working on building, that it's doing all right so far. It still has a lot of work to be done, but it's called the Medallion QE Fund. Now, the reason why I'm naming it the Medallion QE Fund is because there's this guy from the 90s. I think his name was like Jim Simon or something like that. I probably got it wrong. I don't remember his exact name, but he was the founder of Renaissance Technology, which is, I think it was a
I
hedge
love
fund.
that word, bro. Renaissance.
Renaissance, yeah, yeah.
You know what that means, right? It was an age in the history where people used to strive for just making themselves better.
Yeah, exactly. So
That's-
that's essentially what it seemed like his whole premise was.
Yeah.
So
there was a time in like Rome or something where people were just, the only focus was how can I be better? How can my community be better? Like how can we just, the only focus was just making yourself better.
yeah, and it's funny because like that's exactly what he was about. So when he founded Renaissance Technology, he then created what seems like it was the first investment fund that leveraged AI in the actual exchange of trades in the stock market. So his fund was producing around 64% annually, which outbeats the like the S&P, the Nas, and
64%, that means your money doubles in 1 year, 3 months.
yeah, essentially, yeah, pretty
it's
much.
crazy, yeah.
So if you were to put, I think if you were to put $100 in the S&P over 20 years, like $100 one time, it would grow to like six figures. But in the the Medallion Fund, it would grow to a couple million or something like that.
$100 every month for the
No,
next 20
$100
years.
once.
Oh, no
Once.
way.
Over like 20, 30 years or something like that.
Okay.
Yes. So it was pretty insane, but it was made public at first, and then he decided to remove it from the public and only keep it for the employees that worked within his company, right? So what I'm doing, because at the end of the day, the fund that I want to make, I want it to be a position where it can actually make you money. Like actually like give you like money that you can actually live life off of. Not just as a retirement fund, not just as, a way to become financially independent, something that you can actually live off financially, right? So Now, what do typically most people do? They either create a course, sell a course, or when they build something like this, they'll sell this. Now, if it's going to be printing money, I don't need to sell it to make money, right? Because I'm already making money from it. It doesn't matter. So what I want to do is I want to have it similar to Renaissance technology, where it's only going to be accessible to people that work within the company, right? Because then we're going to, whatever the company's mission is, we're going to come together and actually fulfill that mission. And the people that that adopt the mission and want to pursue it, they get access to the fund that is honestly going to benefit them
So
financially.
you're going to be like an equitable life by yourself, so to speak.
Potentially, right? Potentially.
That's
maybe,
what they
right?
do, right? Like, they invest.
Yeah. So that's the premise of it. The QE and the Medallion QE fund that I'm creating stands for quantitative easing.
Right.
If you know what quantitative easing is, when the government just prints money, right? So that's kind of like the sauce behind it.
Nice.
Right. So so that's that, and that's what I'm working on building for 2025. Now in terms of FU money mission, it's really just like, for me, I think it's very similar to Benita as well. But I want to see, for me, it's the biggest thing is the conservative crusade that is going on now. I don't know how it's going to look in 10 years because, I mean, Trump just got elected. He defeated the left, essentially. And he's bringing that conservative... He essentially, the whole conservative crusade essentially looks like it was won by Trump last week, right?
Were you born in Canada?
Yep.
Do you want to be that guy in Canada, maybe? I don't know, 20 years down the road?
That's funny that you say that. Like, Canada needs it, though. That's the thing. Canada actually needs it. Like, we have Pierre, but I don't think he has it. I don't think he's that guy.
Who?
You know?
Pierre?
Pierre Poilievre or whatever.
Oh, Poilievre. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So he has potential, but I don't think he has it.
No,
Now,
I'm tired of watching those videos where he just roasts Canadian
Yeah.
president.
I don't think he's the right guy. Like
There's like two guys in China probably putting those videos consistently out.
Exactly.
You know,
like he's
it's the same pattern. Have you seen those videos?
I've seen a couple.
It's all the same pattern.
Mr. Speaker.
So he's not it.
so
Now there
annoying.
was Kevin O'Leary. You know Kevin O'Leary?
Yeah.
He was gonna run for prime minister too, but he literally
In Canada?
Yes.
He's a Canadian?
He's Canadian, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he started off at Dragon's Den and then he went to Shark Tank.
Oh,
But he's
I
Canadian.
thought he was, he was in States.
No. Well, he is now, but he is Canadian. So he was gonna run for prime minister. I think he ran for, he ran for some government position. You know what he said? And this come from Kevin O'Leary, who was essentially almost similar to Trump. He's like, yo, that world is freaking dark. Because he said you go from everybody loving you to the entire half the world hates your guts. And he's like, honestly, I just couldn't do it. I backed out.
So if you had like fuck you money, $200 billion, you would go run for president.
True.
Something along those lines.
I could see myself potentially getting into some sort of politics, but I mean, I don't know what I want to do for Canada. I don't know, but Canada has nobody right now. I can't do it right now by any means, but if it does get to that point, potentially we'll consider it. But other than that, though, I think just continuing the conservative crusade on media and really just spreading the word of God as well, and just trying to get people, on the right track of what I believe is best for society, which is typically conservative values. So.
Nice. Let's wrap.
Yeah, sounds good.
Alrighty. That was that. 4:28. Just 2 minutes,
Yeah.
All right, cool.